on the Aggie Sports Network. From Learfield, Aggie football has been brought to you by Ford, build Ford proud, and by Stokes Trucking, doing the right thing since 1979. From the All-in-One Flooring America radio booth, welcome to Aggie Postgame.
Final in Logan, Utah State gets the victory to kick off the season, 28-16 over UTEP. Hey, guess what? A little muddy there in the fourth quarter. That's all right. A lot to work on, a lot to get through. Today's postgame show brought to you by Farm Bureau agent Bruce Jones. Contact him at 435-752-3233. It's your future. Let's protect it. Call Bruce up and say, hey, how about those Aggies starting the season 1-0?
Tell you what, after what Aggie fans experienced a year ago, you'll certainly take this. And, even though you got a little bit stagnant there in the third and fourth quarter offensively, you love what you saw defensively. This is a team that gave up 38 points a game last year on defense. And so for Utah State to come out and really shut UTEP down, giving up only 284 yards of total offense and only 16 points, and again, 4 of 15 on third down conversions. That was one of the key stats that you and I talked about in the pregame. Can the defense, they give up 44%. I mean, you cannot win when you're giving up that kind of conversions on the other side of the ball. And so for Utah State defensively, you see them running to the football. You see them tackling in space. You see them sound in their tackling pursuits and in their form. And they're being really well coached. And so that is really an encouraging sign for Utah State that this defense, especially when the offense got stuck in the third and fourth quarters, the defense stood tall. And
I think you hit it right on the head there. There's the fact that they may not have been clicking at the same time together, maybe outside of the second quarter. But when the offense was clicking, Utah State's defense may have had some struggles in the first quarter. But when that defense settled in, it was lights out.
It was outstanding to watch. And even when there were completions, the running to the football and making the tackles, especially those little in cuts over the middle, they didn't give up anything big except for that 34-yard fade ball in the second quarter to Kenny Boyd from Malachi Nelson. Nelson finishes 22 of 34 for 178 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. And Thomas, who was really good in the run game in the first half, finishes with only 36 yards and 16 attempts. The Aggies give up only 103 yards rushing, one of my keys. Last year they gave up an average of 215 yards a game rushing. Only 103 given up here tonight.
Yeah.
So when you look at some of the key stats that we talked about, some of the keys to the game, do they score 24 or more? Yep. Do they give up 24 or less? Yep. Do they average more yards per play? Yep. 5.9 to 3.9. And do they win the turnover battle? Yep. +1. All three, check, check, check. And they get out of here with a 28-16 win.
Final 28-16. We'll continue on with your post-game show next. You're listening to Aggie Football from Learfield.
Hi, it's Emily, and here at Serenoni, we know not everyone sleeps the same. Some people run warm, some love to bundle up, even during the summer. That's why we offer different fabrics and textures, from light and breathable to warm and weighted, including our softest Minky, Plush Lush, Minky Stretch, Waffle, and more. There's truly a blanket for everyone. Come shop our full collection in our store on 10th West in Logan, next to iFit, where you can feel the difference. Serenoni, wrapped in comfort, gifted with love.
Who do you turn to if you want to change out your wood or pellet stove? Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They were voted the gold medalist for Best of Northern Utah for the 5th year in a row in the fireplace retrofit category. Be ready when the government's next wood and pellet replacement incentives pop up. Advanced Fireplace can help you navigate the paperwork. For more information, call Advanced Fireplace and Stove, 752-7272. Online at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
Have you nominated someone to feel the love with Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning? You have until August 31st to nominate someone in need to receive one of 5 fully installed heating and air conditioning units free of charge. Don't wait. Nominate someone today. Go to mountainvalleyhvac.com and let's help make a difference one home at a time. That's mtnvalleyhvac.com. Nominate prior to August 31st. See website for all details.
New news from the Riverwoods Conference Center. All-inclusive pricing is now available for every occasion. Imagine your dream wedding, your daughter's quinceañera, corporate retreats, family parties, business conferences, or expos. Whether you're searching for a small private area, a breathtaking outdoor reception by the river, or an event that accommodates up to 2,000 people, the Riverwoods Conference Center makes event planning effortless with its perfect combination of beauty, service, catering, and now all-inclusive pricing. Visit theriverwoods.com or call 750-5151 for more information today.
Utah State Aggie Sports is sponsored by Daryl's Appliance and beautiful downtown Benson on News Talk KVNU, the home of the Aggies.
Welcome back to Logan, Utah, the home of the 1-0 Utah State Aggies. Aggies get the victory tonight, 28-16 over the UTEP Miners. Postgame show brought to you by Farm Bureau agent Bruce Jones. Hey, Aggie fans, with a Smith's Boost membership, you'll score big with double fuel points, free delivery, and a whole lot more. Go to smithsfoodanddrug.com for details. Smith's, proud partner of Utah State Athletics. A lot to be proud of tonight for Utah State, as the Aggies did not play their best game. But, you know, frankly, it never really felt like UTEP was in this game in the second half.
They took that 7-3 lead in the first half.
Yes.
But you're right. The Aggies then go on back-to-back scoring. Well, they scored 3 consecutive times. They scored the touchdown to make it 10-7, then the field goal, and then the Brock Lane beyond the defense there in the first half, the 52-yarder that made it a 20-7. And you're right, at that point, never really threatened. You just would like to see that when they've got that opportunity to really take a team out, that they put their foot down and go make another score and make it a 4-score game or make it a 5-score game. Give UTEP credit. They kept fighting. They kept fighting defensively, especially. Made it tough. 7 sacks tonight given up by Utah State. And UTEP getting a lot of pressure on Bryson Barnes.
And it's a little misleading, but not much. Like, I think 2 or 3 of those sacks probably in the course of a game. Barnes gets rid of it, but there were times where he took the sack because he wanted to keep the clock running. So it's still a 5-sack game. That's got to be better for Utah State.
No doubt. And they've got to run the football better as well. They end up with 127 yards on 33 attempts. And when you take the sacks away, it was really 161. But you have to factor in the sacks. But what Bryson did do is he didn't make a catastrophic play.
No.
When he had the pressure in his face, he accepted it and said, I'm going to live to play another down and not turn the ball over. So nothing really in harm's way from Bryson Barnes. In fact, Utah State clean in the turnover game. Just not as clean on the penalty side. 11 for 73, and that's an area that you know that Coach Mendenhall and his staff will be harping on all week long. We got to clean that up to be better. But you got to be really pleased with the effort of that defense. So inspired by the change in what we saw the last couple of years defensively versus what we saw here tonight. That 3-3-5 makes it so you kind of keep everything up in front of you, and then you run to the football and you make tackles. They gave up an average of only 3.9 yards per play here tonight. And you'll take that all season long when you can hold a team to 284 total offense and under 4 yards per play. And, the Aggies were led by Noah Avenger, who finishes with 11 tackles. John Miller had 10, including a 1.5 TFLs and a sack. I thought that Chris Joe, the freshman, played very well. He finishes with 5 tackles, including a TFL and 3 solo tackles. I thought that the way that they ran to the football and then tackled in space was inspiring to watch here tonight.
Only one time last year, the game at Wyoming, did Utah State play a game without a turnover.
Wow. And when I looked at it, 22 turnovers last year, 25 the year before.
And there were only 3 games last year. Let's see. 1, 2, 3 where they were plus in the turnover margin. There were a couple where they were even, but only 3 games last year where they were plus in the turnover margin.
Amazing. It's hard to win.
Yeah.
And so the Bronco Mendenhall formula is if you get a turnover, you're going to win. If you are +1 in the turnover battle, you're going to win 85+% of your games. And that proved itself there tonight. Now, how about last year? I'm trying to remember back. Did they ever give up less than 20 points in a game? One time, maybe. I think one time in the opening game, perhaps.
Well, let's see. No. Well, yeah, they only gave up 14 to Robert Morris. And, yes, that's it.
That's it. Only 16 here tonight against a pretty good.
Actually, no. They beat Hawaii 55-10.
That's right. Late in the season.
And then they held San Diego State to 20. So, but But, yeah, other than that, a lot of points were being scored.
And for Utah State tonight to give up only 16 against the 5-star top recruit in the world, in the nation, just a couple years ago, Malachi Nelson. He finishes 22 of 34, the two-time transfer from USC and Boise State, throws for 178 yards. That one turnover was a Noah Flores interception.
Yeah.
Made a great play on the ball. And I got to believe that that's another thing that Utah State will take a look at is how can we cause a little bit more confusion to opposing quarterbacks and get more turnovers. And that will start to work its way out as they work down the course of the season.
Now, I want to say this with a grain of salt because I haven't had a chance. I'll go back and watch the game closer because when you're calling a game, you have to look at the ball. So I'm not looking a lot at what's going on around. But it did feel like Utah State didn't show much defensively tonight. It seemed like they were fairly there were a couple times, but for the most part, they stayed pretty base.
What I noticed is that when they had 3rd and 9+, they started to bring some pressure, especially in the second half. Other than that, they stayed very vanilla, very base. And what you noticed about that is that they were always aligned correctly. And they were making their run fits, and they were in position, which Utah State over the last couple of years was out of position over and over and over again. Whether that's coaching, whether that's players maybe doing their own kind of thing, sort of you wonder about that.
Yeah.
But tonight they were in position and they made the plays.
First game and a heck of a performance in game number 1 in an Aggie uniform. Miles Davis, 12 carries, 88 yards, and a touchdown. Also in the air, 6 catches, 61 receptions. And he joins us now. Miles, congratulations, man. That was a heck of a performance out there.
Thank y'all. I appreciate y'all.
So, Miles, first of all, you got to tell us a little bit about your decision to come to Logan and to Utah State. And then was this the kind of game that you've been hoping that you could have as you've been kind of waiting your time?
Yes, sir. This is the game that I've been hoping for, but we got to be greater than, not equal to. The thing that brought me to Utah State is the coaching staff, man. I love this coaching staff. I felt like it was my last year, and I wanted to spend it. I wanted to work hard. I knew this program, these coaches were going to push me to the limit that I can, get to. So, that's the reason why I came.
Is your ability to catch the ball and your ability to get yards after the catch, is that something of your game that you've always felt good about, but it just never had a group that really exploited it like Coach did tonight?
I feel like that's, something, but I feel like these coaches also helped me, get there. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I needed some things to work on, and I feel like Coach Gardner, the running back coach, and Coach Bronco, they pushed me to, get to that next level.
So you're down 7-3, and you get that little zone read off the left-hand hash, and what we saw was
I thought you stepped out, Miles, but on the replay, your heel never went down,
never
man.
came down. What did you see on that play?
What you mean? Like, what you mean?
On the touchdown run.
The touchdown run.
Oh, yeah, no, I just, I saw my O-line blocking really good for me, so I hit the hole and just tried to go. That was really it.
But to tightrope down that sideline, were you concerned at all that they were good?
I didn't know. I'm gonna say it's the white cleats. That's what I'm just gonna say. I'm gonna say the white cleats that helped me.
Although, Miles, when we looked at the replay, you were running on your toes, and I assume that's something you always wanted to try to do because that right heel, as you hit about the 40-yard line, it never came down.
Yes,
and
sir.
So you kept that toe up, or the toe down and the heel up, and you stayed in bounds.
Yes, sir. That's the track. That's the track workouts that we doing up here.
I love it. Hey, has this been one of your hardest off seasons in terms of training and from a physicality standpoint?
Yes, this is the hardest program that I feel like anybody can go through. I feel like we train literally like Navy SEALs, but it helps. It helps so much. It helps with the mental. It helps with the, just the athletic ability. It helps with so many things. It just, I feel like me as a player, I needed this.
When you get up 28-10 there in the third quarter, it started to started kind of getting stuck a little bit. I'm sure that's something that when you go back and look at film, you guys will kind of work on that. But talk about what you're talking about on the sideline to say, hey, listen, we still got to just keep out there executing and doing our best. But what are some of the things that you think you can do a little bit better as you go into College Station and Texas A&M next week?
I feel like it's the first game. The first game is always kind of shaky for guys over it's just NFL, like football overall. It's kind of shaky. So I think we got to just dial in on the fundamentals and go back and do our 111. And I feel like that would help us go to College Station and do what we have to do.
For the first time in his career, Bryson Barnes starts the year as being the guy. What did you see out of him tonight, and what's his progression as a leader been like in this offseason going into this year?
Man, Bryson is different. Bryson is different. I feel like tonight he showed it. He showed tonight that he's a different type of quarterback, and he's an athlete. And I feel like as a leader, he I don't know if you guys look at our social media page and stuff like that, but he's a true leader. Like, he's just a world-class athlete and a true leader. And what more can you ask for a quarterback more than that? So.
And Miles, talk a little bit about those guys up front. That a lot of them, getting some of their first action transfers coming in from other programs. Mm-hmm. How would you grade out your guys up front?
To me, they did 100. They had 100%. Now, of course, there's some things that we have to work on, but to me, they did 100%. You know what I mean? So, and I'm really glad, proud of them guys.
Well, you should be proud of yourself. That was a heck of a performance, man. Congratulations on the W, and let's keep it rolling next week, okay?
Yep. Appreciate you guys.
You got it. Miles Davis.
When you look at it, 18 touches, 12 carries for 88, 6 catches for 61. That's 18 touches for 149 yards.
Yeah.
Total offense out of that young man here tonight. That's a pretty special game.
Noah Avenger.
All right, joining us now, Noah Avenger, kind enough to join us right here on the Aggie Sports Network from Learfield. Noah, you got to clear something up for us real quick. How you doing, by the way?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing well. So there's a pronunciation guide that says Avenger, and then there's another one that says Avenger. I'm going to go with just set the record straight for us.
It's Avenger.
Okay. All right. You're right, Kevin. Hey, talk about that performance tonight, because you guys, one thing, and I know you weren't here last year, but there were a lot of missed tackles and just not very much assignment sound at times last year. Mm-hmm. And this year it seemed like everybody was where they needed to be for the most part. Did you get that sense with this team? Absolutely.
Yeah, it all starts with Coach Mendenhall. Just the foundation he has instilled in this team, kind of doing everything right all the time. It kind of forces everybody to make sure your job assignments. Coach Howell, Coach McGivern, everybody, just the whole coaching staff, everybody instills that in us. So it allows us to play fast, and we know our assignments, so we're on the field playing fast. And I feel like that all starts from Coach Mendenhall.
I noticed that too, Noah, that playing fast and running to the football was something that we didn't see the last couple of years out of this Utah State defense. And, all 11 getting their hats to the ball. I'm assuming that that's something that you guys preach every day in practice. But then the ability to tackle in space, I thought, was outstanding tonight.
Absolutely. Yeah, Coach Howell always preaches 11 hats to the ball. And that's what it kind of instilled in us. So it's kind of our team on the defensive side, and it's instilled in us. And that's how we want to fly around every single play, all 4 quarters, and just, take it there as many times as we can. And, that's all thanks to Coach Howell right there.
So Flores comes into the game and immediately gets an interception. Walk us through that. How cool was it to see that young man coming down with that pick?
Oh, it was great. It was great. He was ready on the sideline, kind of waiting for his opportunity, and he just shined. He got out there, first play, deep ball down there. He made the play. That just shows how prepared he was, and just kind of was ready to go. And when it came to his time to shine, he did.
So I got to ask you, Noah, obviously you went to New Mexico last year to join Coach Mendenhall and Coach Howell, and I'm assuming that's the reason you're here as well. As they came here, you're saying, I want to stay with those coaches. But talk about that transition from Albuquerque to now Logan.
Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like it was an easy transition, just the community, the coaches, everything, all the people here. You get a warm welcome feel, family feel. It's kind of easy transition. Obviously, I love Coach Mendenhall, love Coach Howell, love all this whole coaching staff, Coach Mack, Coach Nino, all the whole coaching staff. So you're not going to get better leaders out there, I feel like, in college football. And I feel like it all starts with Coach Mendenhall and just the foundation he has, creating young men, the foundation of young men on and off the field. I just kind of love that, and you just made the transition so much easier, because obviously I was with them at New Mexico, and now just coming over here, it felt like just family feel.
Miles Davis said the offseason was the hardest thing he's ever been involved in. It felt like SEAL training to him. You knew what you were getting into. You knew Bronco was going to work everybody's tail off of, and yet you embraced it. It would have been very easy. You're like, I'm going to go somewhere else where I don't have to deal with this guy that's making me run and go through all this stuff. But you wanted that. What is it about his program and what he expects that actually makes people want to be a part of something so physically grueling?
Absolutely. Coach Mendenhall preaches in our pillars and our foundation, hard things together. And you kind of do hard things with your brothers. The trainings from January all the way till now, doing all those hard things, the bond that we grow together is special. You won't get like this anywhere else in college football, I feel like, me personally. Just having that aspect, I love that. Kind of my family instilled that in me at a young age, and, I kind of just gravitated toward that my whole life. So it just felt like home once Coach Mendenhall told me to come over here, asked me if I wanted to come over here too, because I love doing hard things, and it's like the most rewarding thing, I feel like. And then obviously when we win on the field, it's kind of all worth it.
Hey, a couple things, questions for you, Noah. Last year, the Utah State defense gave up 44% on third down conversions. Tonight, you held them to 4 of 15. Last year, Utah State gave up 215 yards per game on the ground. Tonight, only 103 and less than 3 yards per attempt. Are you the two-part question? Are you the guy making the calls in the secondary?
Oh, absolutely. Well, we all communicate. It's a whole defensive side effort, so we all communicate on the back end.
Gotcha. And then as you're looking at this game playing itself out, and they cut the lead down to 12, 28-16, I thought that you guys kind of put the clamps down. Obviously, field position hurt them just a little bit, but you guys were running to the ball and in position. That's what I noticed is you guys are just in position over and over and over again. Is that schematically, is that how it works, or do you guys just know exactly instinctively where you need to be?
Absolutely. It kind of goes back to what I just talked about, hard things together. And we just train harder, longer, and that's what it comes down to. Coach Howell instilled that foundation in us on both sides of the ball. Offense producing on the offensive side and defense producing when we need to produce. And then that's really all it comes down to: knowing our job assignments, playing fast, and then playing harder, longer.
Hey, it's great getting to know you. Looking forward to future conversations over future wins. Thanks for joining us, and congratulations. Enjoy this one.
Thank you so much.
Noah Avenger,
and he was a stud out here tonight. 11 tackles, 8 of those were solo, double digits, all over the field. And what you notice about that young guy, he's not very big. When you look at his size, I mean, it's 6 foot and 190, but man, does he tackle well.
Plays way bigger than he is.
Absolutely, and sure tackler, and especially when you got those little scat backs like Cam Thomas and Kenny Boyd in space, you notice that Noah Avenger has the ability to take them down in space.
Dex Imaging, the nation's largest independent business solutions provider, selling and servicing the broadest selection of copiers, printers, and data security solutions. Learn more at deximaging.com. You're going to hear from Bronco Mendenhall, head coach of Utah State, coming up next on the Aggie Sports Network from Learfield.
Sign Pro is a proud supporter of Utah State Athletics and the preferred signage partner for all Utah State athletic venues. Whether you know exactly what you want or you have no idea, the design pros at Sign Pro have years of experience in turning customer visions into realities. No matter how big or small the project is, Sign Pro can get it done. Call us at 435-787-1999 for a quote on your next project.
How do you become America's best-selling brand? Let's break it down. Innovative tech means smarter and safer driving. Intelligent all-wheel drive will keep you ready for anything. And built Ford tough trucks will always get the job done. Plus, come into your local Ford store today and get super low APR financing, big cash back, and great lease offers on Ford's full line of cars, trucks, and SUVs. That's Ford, and that's how you become America's best-selling brand. Sales claim based on calendar year sales.
The passion.
He's going to take it to the house. Dinner's cooking. Touchdown.
The fury.
There was flames on that ball.
The speed.
35-40. There he goes. Down the sideline.
Western College football.
For the end zone. Got it for 6 points. You can unhitch the wagon. Put the ponies in the barn. Back to the end zone. 30, 20. Say goodnight to this one.
This is the College Football Bliss. Listen all season long on College Sports Now on the Varsity Network.
Awaiting a chance to chat with Bronco Mendenhall, head coach of Utah State, who starts out his Aggie career 1-0.
That's his 141st victory all time. Number 6 active winningest coach in America. And what a good way to start. You talked about it right towards the end of the ball game, that when you can get out of your first game with a win and still have so many things you can teach and show on film of how to improve, that's when you feel like you've got something, because then you can show how you can improve from week 1 to week 2 to week 3. And we didn't talk about it enough. 87 new players on this team. And so you're going to have some of those moments where you're just not quite in sync. And, that's evidenced in the 11 penalties here tonight. Many of those were false starts or illegal formations or illegal man downfield, things of that nature. Those are things that you can clean up. Only one penalty did they have that was a sideline hit out of bounds. They had the call on the roughing the passer, but when we looked at the replay on that one, that looked like a push to the shoulder pad to me.
I'm not buying that one.
Yeah, for sure. So, that is way better than what we've seen the last several years. So those are some good things to build on. And then, of course, you got your quarterback out there tonight. Bryson Barnes went 18 of 27 for 229 yards and a touchdown. Did not turn the ball over. 15 carries for 29 yards. A lot of that was sack yardage. He had to take some yardage back, but I thought that he made some big plays, especially when you look at that play that he made on back-to-back plays. He broke the contain in the second quarter with the Aggies up 13-7 and got an 18-yard run to get a first down. And then the very next play, a little rollout, buys more time, steps up, and sees Brock Lane 20 yards beyond everybody else, heaves it as far as he possibly could, as high as he possibly could. And Brock Lane, all he had to do was wait for it and cradle it as he was falling into the end zone for the 52-yard touchdown. And that gave Utah State the 13-point lead, really the 2-score lead that they never, ever relinquished.
It really did not. And then you look at their ability to never allow – like even that touchdown they got to get to 16, it took a lot of effort and a lot of work and a lot of time off the clock to get there. And so there were never any of those crazy explosive plays. Yep. You had the 34-yard touchdown, but after that, you have one of your more dynamic running backs. Cam Thomas is a dynamic running back who they use all over the field. Kenny Odom is really tremendously athletic, and none of those guys really appeared to ever really get going where it was a threat on any given play. Like, when they're playing New Mexico last year with Devin Dampier and some of those guys, Luke Wysong, some of those guys, it was just like 15 yards, 20 yards, 10 yards. You never got that sense tonight with this defense.
No question. In the first half, Cam Thomas had a 17-yard run and looked so quick in doing it, and you thought, oh, boy, this guy's going to be a problem tonight. Well, in the second half, they really bottled him up. He finishes with 16 carries for 36 yards. He has 4 catches for 26 yards. But I thought the adjustments that they made on Cam Thomas was really, really outstanding. Part of a defensive effort that held UTEP to 284 yards of total offense, under 4 yards per play, and under 3 yards per attempt running the football. Only 103 yards on 35 attempts, 2.9 yard average for UTEP here tonight. Those were some of the keys that we wanted to see. Is can they get off the field on third down? Well, 4 of 15. You'll take that every single day. Can you get off the? Can you stop the run after giving up 215 yards per game a year ago on the ground? Tonight, you gave up only 103 yards on 35 attempts. And then, can you get Malachi Nelson, the 5-star recruit from USC to Boise, now to UTEP? Can you get him off his spot? As the game wore on in that fourth quarter, as more pressure started to come, you could see that if they got him off his spot, he's not nearly as accurate. He does finish 22 of 34 for 178 yards, but Utah State was in his face, making him move around, and that's when they started to get incomplete balls left and right in that fourth quarter.
At no point last year did Utah State hold a offense under 300 yards. In fact, only twice did they hold teams under 400 yards.
Wow.
On the season last year.
There's some major improvement.
In fact, this is the first time Utah State has held an opponent under, how about this, under 300 yards since the season opener against Iowa, who only had 284 yards in that game.
In 2023.
In 2023.
So it's been 2 years.
2 years.
Since Utah State has allowed less than 300 yards. And this is a good offense. This is a Scotty Walden offense that they're going to get theirs. especially as they move into their conference play. It'll be interesting to see how they perform down the stretch here in their conference. But that was a tremendous defensive output for Utah State. And again, we can't say it enough. The alignment sound, the run fits, the running to the football, the tackling in space, just the tackling in general, I thought was way better than we've seen in many years. Mm-hmm. Their ability to be in position and make the form tackle, and you know, saw it from the very first play. Remember the first play? Chris Joe, the freshman, right there to make a form tackle for loss. And that sort of set the tone.
You're going to hear from Bronco Mendenhall coming up here in just a moment. Your post-game show brought to you by Farm Bureau agent Bruce Jones. Make sure to contact him at 435-752-3233. It's your future. Let's protect it. Aggies get the victory tonight, 28-16 to start the season 1-0. And a night in which the Aggie offense generated 356 yards and held UTEP to just 284 yards of total offense as well. All right, joining us now, he is the head coach of the Utah State Aggies, Bronco Mendenhall. Coach, first off, congratulations on getting the win. I'm sure that had to be fun to go to your locker room and say, hey, this is why we did all that work in the offseason for moments like this.
Man, I just I'm so grateful to be the coach at Utah State. The support that was displayed in our stadium, the herd, the students, our alumni, the community members. And I just I'm grateful that I get to lead this team. I'm so thankful for how our players have allowed me to coach them, which that is a choice they make. And I'm thankful for the community just coming out to support. And I hope everyone that was here has hope and optimism and sees the direction and appreciates the effort that the team was playing with. And certainly it's gratifying. The coolest thing about being a head coach and a parent is you seeing other people happy. And the ones that you're working with, where they achieve their goals and they work so hard, and then you can see a reward that actually comes, and it kind of perpetuates all the difficult things you've been teaching and hoping that they would embrace. And so the locker room moments of seeing all the smiles and the young people that I care about so much just enjoying it, that's really fun.
Coach, welcome to Cache Valley. So excited to have you here.
Hey, is that my former teammate, Kevin White?
It is.
All right.
You know, some of your key pillars, you win the turnover battle.
Yep.
You get more yards per play.
Yep.
Some of those key things that you always talk about, you won all three of some of the biggest,
yep.
including then, of course, scoring over 24 and holding under 24. So check. You had to be pleased with all those three pillars.
It was, we're a process-oriented organization, and I'm a process-oriented leader. And so the leader's job is to set the vision, but also capture hearts and minds along the way, but also then give the right metrics so the players know that if you do this, right, the results over time have been this. And so each of those things you mentioned, we call them our pillars. I don't talk about them really openly or publicly, but each one of those predicts at a really high level over a 19-year career of being a head coach what success will look like winning-wise. And so we focus simply on the process, never on the outcome, and that keeps us grounded in what really will make a difference. And it wasn't a game where we clearly pulled away, and it wasn't a game that you could say, man, we dominated our opponent. But what we did do was from quarter one to quarter four, we hit the key metrics we needed to. We stayed together. We were resilient. We made enough plays. And we played complementary football in a manner that yielded that. And that's really gratifying, and I think it will help our team. It just kind of cements or begins to cement the approach that we've been talking about.
Miles Davis has been looking for opportunities. We talk about Bryson Barnes being the guy, but you can tell Miles Davis was at a point where he really wanted to put his fingerprints on an offense, and I thought he was just outstanding tonight.
Miles Davis is an amazing young person. He is an exceptional young man. He's so grateful for this opportunity. He's just bright and hardworking, and this is a young man in transferring from BYU. He could not make his times. He couldn't finish his workouts in our program. And, man, he from the winter through the summer, he has changed colors in our system. He has become one of the most elite conditioned players. He's working in terms of his goals, all of our players, right, we have a very clear mental process and fearless mind journals that we work through, and many times he's here before any of the coaches or anyone else, and he's just sitting by himself working on the mental approach and filling in his journal, and he's on a mission, not only for himself but to help this team. And so it's really fun to see someone that has invested that much time, energy, and effort then be able to carry the load offensively, because he could not have when he first arrived, and he wasn't going to be a significant contributor right away. He wasn't fit enough to be able to do that, and that was the feedback he got. And man, he thanked us for that feedback, and he just worked like crazy. And to see him in game one be able to do that, just that smile I saw from him today was, we both knew what it meant.
Yeah, you could tell as we talked with him here in the postgame how happy he was. Got a two-part question for you, Coach. Is it 87 new players? Is that the number?
That counts missionaries. And so those guys, when they come back, 36 new that were playing tonight, six first-time starters for Utah State. But yeah, 87 includes the missionaries on a roster of 109.
Incredible. So obviously week one, not everything comes together, but evaluate your team. Maybe you'll need to wait till you see the film, but evaluate from what you just experienced how they're coming together here after week one.
I was really impressed. So I thought Coach Howell did a super job getting our defense ready against the tempo, against the looks that UTEP has, with some really skilled and vibrant wideouts. The first time we played man coverage, you saw that we gave up a slot fade, as did Nebraska a year ago. And so we were mindful on any given play. They had players that could go behind us or around us, and we developed Coach Howell and staff developed a really nice plan, and then executed it really from beginning to end. And middle of the third quarter through the fourth, we weren't moving the ball effectively offensively, but the defense played and played and played and played and played and closed out the game, which was really fun to see. Offensively, man, we saw bright spots happening, and we saw diverse approaches between quarterback, between running back, between receiver, between tight end, and unique formations and play calling, etc. And I was super encouraged by that. Had some penalties get in the way of our team, we'll address that as we kind of move on. And then really just the consistency offensively was probably the thing that showed the most down the stretch, where we couldn't really pull away. I was super encouraged by our coverage units, kick and punt coverage. We did a really nice job. And sometimes that's suspect in terms of lanes and discipline and effort, or just how it looks. And I was really impressed, besides us then being able to execute a 2-point play out of our field goal unit with Aggie. And that was, man, what a cool play that was.
Well, there was just so many really cool things to talk about. I know the penalties to be addressed,
yep.
and the protection of Bryson Barnes. You give up 7 sacks. Some of those were, him eating the ball to keep the clock running and things like that. But overall, talk about the protection and how that can be improved.
Yeah, I think, man, I'm glad you brought that up. Inconsistent, and so we will address that. Give UTEP credit, and so sometimes they just beat us. Other times we just didn't protect the communication, the call, and the assignments. Didn't turn the right way. Back wasn't coordinated with the offensive front, and so those things can be worked on. And then Bryson's really smart. So rather than being careless with the ball, rather than maybe over trying to extend or create, sometimes a good play is the next play. And so I thought he did a really nice job of scrambling for what he could get. Ball security was exceptional by him, but certainly part of the inconsistency between the penalties, I think, would be some of the protection. And I'm glad you brought that up.
A lot of people wondered what the safety position would look like for a lot of different reasons, which we don't need to talk about. But I just thought that between Noah with 11 tackles and Brevin with 8 tackles, and I thought in position, both in the run fit as well as in the passing game, and then their ability to run to the football and make tackles, especially when they're tackling in space. I thought they were outstanding.
Yeah, those kids are so tough. And I love tough kids that just, do what they're supposed to do and are team first oriented and are so accountable and fierce and play for their teammates. And Brevin Hamblin kind of, roaming in the middle, and then you have BT, Bryson Taylor, and Bobby Arnold on one side of him, and then you have Noah Avenger on the other side. And there's others that were just kind of are waiting in the wings to get their opportunity. It's fun to look out and just see amazing young people. And that's I was so happy for him. I think they tackled well. I think they covered well. I think they leveraged the ball well. Man, they were just, their jerseys were drenched and they were smiling, and that's a cool way to spend a Saturday.
Brevin, I thought, for a big 6'5" kid playing that safety spot,
yeah,
man,
totally.
He could. Does he remind you at all of an Urlacher?
Man, so the position he played tonight was an Urlacher-ish position. But again, we're talking about Urlacher is 6'4", 263 his senior year, led the nation in tackles, power clean, 400 pounds, 4'4", and over a 40-inch vertical. So the height is the same, and Brevin is a really good tackler and a really good football player. Urlacher was a first-round draft pick, so not a fair comparison to any of us. And Brevin's a really good player, so it's hard to throw the Urlacher label in there and have anyone just like that. Because so for our fans that are listening, Urlacher was Rookie of the Year his first year and All-Pro every year he played. I mean,
wearing a gold jacket now.
Yeah, how often does that happen?
Yeah, not often. When we were talking to Noah, he mentioned that he knew what he was getting into because, you were with him at New Mexico. And so when a kid seeks that out and you had, the off season and the work and the grueling effort that you put these guys through, and he's like, no, I want to be a part of that. I want to go that. I want to follow to that. It just goes to show what you've been saying and telling me for a long time, that kids want to be accountable. They want to be pushed hard. They want to be coached hard because they get results like they get tonight.
They do, and they feel themselves develop. And the number one thing that motivates any of us is a sense of improvement. And yeah, you'd say, man, that guy's crazy. He's coming from New Mexico to stay with the same approach. And you could say the same about Javen Jacobs, and you could say the same about Bobby Arnold, and you could say the same about Bryson Taylor, and you could say the same about Hiram Hatch. And but they know what really vigilant and hard work looks like, and they know the results internally they feel. And they also know what it does to a team and how unifying it becomes. And I'm not saying we've arrived. So for all our listeners, we're just starting. But those are kids that have gone through it, and they wouldn't have it any other way. And that's really fun.
Two quick questions, Coach. I thought, the very first play of the game, Chris Joe gets a TFL.
Yeah.
How about that, a freshman? And talk about some of the growth of he and Carson Tujay and some of these young guys that are coming in and making some plays.
Really fun. So Chris Joe, he committed to us at the University of New Mexico and then chose to come here to Utah State with us as a true freshman, all fall camp, every single scrimmage. There's just play after play after play. And so Coach Jorgensen has just been mentoring him really almost one-on-one and trying to expedite his preparation to start a college football game as a true freshman. And I think he handled it really well for his first one. Carson Tujay, I couldn't be happier. His father was my offensive line coach, not only at BYU but at the University of Virginia. Carson's sister is my personal assistant, and he wasn't getting playing time at BYU. We knew him. We knew what was inside of him, his spirit, his determination, his will, all the things, and he's a good player. And so comes here. We had 9 different D linemen playing and rotating tonight, and it's fun to see players that are sweating, exhausted, and tired. And let's face it, everyone wants to be needed and wanted, and he's needed and wanted here, and that's great for everybody.
And health-wise, did you come out of this one okay?
Don't know yet. I haven't had a chance to hear.
We saw Dylan come out in the first half, but then he got back in the second half.
Yep.
So.
Sometimes our trainers come up to me in game and say so and so's out or so and so's down. And to be honest with you, right now I can't remember what they told me, so I don't remember.
Well, Coach, congratulations on game number 1 in an Aggie on that Aggie sideline and picking up that W. Hopefully that's the first of many to come, and thanks for your time. We really appreciate it.
It's absolutely my pleasure, and just I felt lucky to be there tonight.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Bronco Mendenhall, head coach of the UTEP.
The game is over. And now KVNU Aggie Game Day continues with Aggie Call, the complete recap on all the action of your Utah State Aggies. We want your comments and questions about today's game. The phone line is 435-753-KVNU. The text line is 435-554-1175. Plus, more interviews and insights are coming as we break down the Aggie action with you and the Aggie Nation. It's KVNU Aggie Call with J.D. Walker, Stockton Jukes, and Eric Franson.
And it is a beautiful blue A that Old Main lit up as the Aggies win and take down UTEP 28-16 up at Merlin Olsen Field. This is Aggie Call on KVNU. Phone lines open 435-753-5868. That's 753-KVNU. The text line also open 435-554-1175. That's 435-554-1175 for Aggie Call. And first thoughts, gentlemen, as we go around the room, we have a new addition joining us, a familiar face to the Aggie crew, former Utah State and NFL alum Tyler Larson joining the Aggie Call crew. Tyler, thank you for coming in today and hanging out with us.
Thanks for having me.
And Eric Franson joining us from the Full Court Press, 4 to 6 over on our sister station, 106.9 The Fan, for all your Aggie coverage during the week. How do you do?
It's a win, so I'm doing good.
And then Mr. Green Canyon, also my tag team partner in crime, Stockton Jukes. How are we feeling tonight? Stockton, I'm going to go ahead and let you go first. You went down there. You were out there. I followed some of your tweeting on the thing. How you doing for the first game of the year?
Oh, man. Oh, it feels great. It feels so good. I feel it important to point out that the Utah State Aggies are 1-0 and the Alabama Crimson Tide are 0-1. You do the math. But no, it was a good game. I was really, really pleased with what we were seeing through the first half. I think my biggest takeaway, and I said this to the guys I was sitting with in the press box a couple times tonight, but I just could not get over how day and night the tackling was this season. I know it's game one. I know it's UTEP, and I know that there's still things that we need to work on and things that can change over the course of the season. But the tackling, the limiting the yards after contact, there are plays today that went down as a TFL that last year probably end up 10 to 15 yards up the field after contact. It's such a refreshing brand of football to see this team bring out. They were super physical, very good in ball pursuit on defense. I think special teams did a really good job on coverage and getting those tackles without letting guys break through contact like they did so often last season. But it just feels good to start the season off on a good foot. I think they kind of hit it on the head right after that game was over with Scotty. He said, it's one of those games where you still have a lot to learn after this one, and there's a lot to adjust, but it's a lot easier to take those lessons and be positive about it with a win. They got their win. They're 1-0, and now we can look forward to next weekend and maybe get some eyes looking over this way.
Tyler Larson, what are your first thoughts on the first outing of the Coach Mendenhall era for your Utah State Aggies?
I loved what I was seeing. I think that vibes are definitely very high. You can tell that there's a culture building right now. And you know, I just, like Stockton was saying, there's a lot of people flying around on defense. I love the physicality, especially as offensive linemen. I love to see what they were doing out there on the field. I do think there are certain situations that they can really improve on. You know, if they're down going, 2-12?
Yeah, 2-12, and that's, like, if you take out the second quarter, like they were 2 for 3, and then it's over for the rest of the game. So that's one of those trouble spots.
That one can definitely creep up on you throughout the season. But I think, you know, the vibes that the team had out there and what I saw, I'm very excited for what we have.
Eric, so we've weathered the last 24 months of the cycle of everything. How are you feeling after the first? You know, on paper, we have stuff to kind of break down now. Bronco ball here at Utah State. How you feeling?
It's still weird to see Bronco Mendenhall on the sidelines for Utah State wearing a big U State logo on his shirt and his hat. It's weird. And I'm sure, Tyler, it's got to be super weird for you, man.
It was, when I first met him and shook his hand, it felt weird. But, you know, we got to win, and I'm liking it, so we're good.
Yeah, but you know what? Yes, it's been a crazy offseason since December. But you can see that this is a coaching staff that's trying to build something here. And they got the win. Like you said, it's a win, but there's still a lot of things to work on. Clearly, this is a team with a lot of new guys. And this is a coaching staff trying to point people in a different direction than a lot of these guys are used to. So there are going to be some growing pains. There's going to be some miscues here and there, but they got the win. Was it pretty? Not exactly, but they got the win. And so it gives a lot of optimism about what this season could look like. And I thought it was interesting that Coach Mendenhall, he made a point, like in his comments, say, I hope people who were here have some hope and optimism for what this team and what the season could look like. And I would agree. I think that we could look at this and see there is a trajectory here where this team could be looking better and could be a bowl eligible team.
And also, you are invited to sound off on this. The KVNU text line 435-554-1175. That's 554-1175. Coming in first on the text line from 1326. Special teams was a real bright spot tonight. Defense played pretty well. Good fundamentals. Pass protection was pretty bad, especially in the second half. Tyler, I'm going to go ahead and ask you on this. It's something that we saw, and mentioned it to Eric as we were watching in the conference room. UTEP had 12 tackles for losses, with those included 6 sacks. Texas A&M is coming up, and they're a little bit more on the skill level on that defensive line. Are you concerned with what you saw on the line, and how would you address changing it?
Good question. So I think that as an offensive line, a lot of people think that it's a lot easier than it is. You got 5 guys out there having to be on the same page. Sometimes you got a 6 with the running back.
So wait a minute, Tyler. Are you telling me, now my wife's going to laugh about this, that 5 really cool robots on the offensive line come together and form one awesome robot and work together as a unit?
You could say that, yes.
Awesome.
Yeah. But, yeah, no, I think that going against a higher skilled team, that really cranks it up for that week. You guys start preparing together. You see that, man, we gave 6 sacks. But you can also look at, sometimes it's not always just the offensive line. Sometimes maybe there was a missed route. Maybe there's other levels to what happened out there. So I think once they really start evaluating the film and they're going to be able to see what happened, they're going to be able to, whether it was the offensive line, correct that. They're going to be able to have better communication, better way for the center, whoever's calling the protections, to really, be able to hone in on what's going on and making sure everybody's on the same page. But I think that's the cool thing about offensive linemen is, I think we're the smartest guys out there. So they're going to be able to build upon what they've seen, and they're going to continue to get better and work together to improve what they've really been missing on. And, it's first game jitters, everything like that. Guys get really excited. Sometimes the game plan will go in one ear, out the other. But once they finally got their feet wet, I think I think they'll improve.
And it's not one of those stats, from what I'm understanding, is that after everything's done, they're not going to go back and say, this was the QB, didn't have a read, the coverage was great, so he brought it down, and it turned to a sack. That's still going to be on the offensive line. So the guys they're the fall guys during the game, yep. And then afterwards it gets worked out. All right, that's interesting to hear there. Going back to the text line real quick, 9315, good to hear from you again, 9315. I was thinking we were done with so many penalties, but at least it's not stupid penalties. The defense is much improved. Eric, something I noticed too, there was some procedural stuff penalty-wise. Yeah,
first half, relatively clean for Utah State. They really started to pile up in the second. But there's things that need to be cleaned up. And as we've said, this is a group of a lot of new players coming together, trying to get on the same page. That as much as you try to practice through fall camp with so many different new guys, sometimes it takes time. So some of those were just guys were just being playing aggressive. I didn't think anything was too egregious. But Utah State had more penalties, but it felt like the UTEP penalties, when they happened and how they happened, seemed to hurt them more than the Utah State penalties hurt the Aggies, though it did seem to stall out some Aggie drives. But yeah, that's clearly something that needs to be improved upon, because it is a full 4 quarters that you got to play. You can't just show up and play a good half and be done.
Stockton, do you feel like on defense, with some of those penalties being procedure and not seeing some of the big penalties, personal fouls, stuff like that, do you feel like the defense more disciplined, or maybe even the team in general more disciplined under Coach Mendenhall?
Defense, yes, for sure. I thought the defense had a really relatively good game, especially compared to what we've been seeing for the last little bit. But I was starting to get kind of frustrated in the fourth quarter with the holding, the ineligible receivers, I forget what there
was a Brock wasn't covered, or he had somebody cover him.
Ineligible receiver Brock got covered up, and just kind of some mental lapses late in the game. And one of the things that we were talking about the pregame is this is a team that they've been really focused on. We're going to play 60 minutes of really good football, and we're going to be conditioned for the full 60 minutes. You start to get a little concerned about kind of how they were looking towards the end of the game and maybe getting some tired legs and some mental lapses just because, it's the first game of the season, the first time you're going at full speed against other guys that are trying to hit you as hard as they can. So there's something to be said there, but I think that if you can clean up just a little bit of those things towards the end of the game and just mentally stay in it as tight as you can until that final whistle, that's where you're going to clean that up, because to me it wasn't sloppy football, it wasn't bad football, it was just they were getting tired and they were starting to lapse a little bit.
The Bomb Hotel bringing you Aggie Call. They have the special rate of $79 when you mention Aggie 79. Call them today at 435-752-5220 at the Bomb Hotel. Also, Cache Valley Ear, Nose, and Throat, who keep me in good tip-top shape. The Allergy Clinic and Hearing Aid Center, accepting new patients in North Logan and Providence. That's CacheValleyENT.com for details. It's Aggie Call here on KVNU. The text line open at 435-554-1175. And that's where, Tyler, sorry to put you on the spot, but 2070's got one for you right here. First time. So they're baptizing you by fire today. Tyler, us USU fans are very proud watching your career and seeing how long you played. How did you make it out of the NFL health-wise? Spending that long in the NFL in the trenches is an amazing achievement. Congratulations. And what are some of the differences between the college trenches and the NFL trenches?
Thank you very much. Getting through that, it's a huge, I wear it with pride. I really do, getting 10 years through the NFL. Health-wise, my last 2 years, I tore an Achilles.
Whoa.
Tore my knee, lost 50% of the cartilage. So it's not great, but making the best of it. And then what was the second part of that?
The differences between college and the NFL.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Here we go. The speed was the first thing that I saw. Not just from the actual athletes, but how quickly you have to diagnose what's going across from you, seeing defenses, being able to make a call. It's just such a faster pace. But then there's grown men that I'm going against rather than freshmen, sophomores and like that. And I think a huge part of it is people are trying to provide for their families, and so it is not a friendly world. I would say those are the three things that were the biggest difference.
So for those who don't know, Tyler, and you correct me where I'm wrong here, but you started off with the Dolphins.
Yep.
You went to Washington with the Redskins. You played some time with the Panthers, and then you went back to Washington.
Yes.
For the Redskins, and then later renamed as the Commanders.
Yeah, I got to play for all three Washingtons.
Yeah, the Washington
cool.
football team.
Yeah, I got all three.
What years were you playing with the Dolphins?
So that was 2014.
So opening day, Seattle. And Ndamukong Suh rolls over on my quarterback's leg and causes me to about limp out of the stadium. We were in the same spot. Well, I was up there with the 300 with the Rowdies.
Right, yeah.
You were on that's so cool, man, to think of that. And then we've been talking a little bit off the air, Scotty, and then we're wrapping up the show. You're actually involved right now with Green Canyon High School and helping out a little bit on the O-line. You want to tell us a little bit about that right now?
I actually have the opportunity to coach with Mark Weber. He's my offensive line coach at Utah State. We're just taking the O-line, getting the run game coordination going, and it's just I love coaching high school football. It's so much fun, and the kids wanting to constantly improve, then being able to pick my brain, ask questions. It's fun, and being able to reminisce through all my, days.
All your battles.
Yep.
435-554-1175 to get you to the text line, and Stockton's got our next ones loaded up there.
Yeah, we got plenty of texts coming in. We'll be here for a while. I know you guys are still awake too. Everyone's wired after a game like that. I always stay. I think I was up until 3 last night after the Green Canyon game down at Pleasant Grove. It was
sleep?
No, I don't believe in it. So 0783 just actually sent another one in right now, but first one says 3 things. First, it's nice that the players are wearing the decals for the Tremont officers. I agree. That was something that really hit this community hard. I've been really proud of how the community has rallied around those families and the response that we've seen from the people in the community. So keep that up and obviously keep those families in your prayers going forward. Second, we had a few good games last year against Hawaii and San Diego State, but the problem was that it was after a lot of our fan base, especially the casual portion and even some of the hardcore portion, was checked out. So it's nice to get a win while our fan base is still all in on football. Third, I do question calling the timeout before UTEP went for it on 4th down. We shouldn't have taken for granted they were going to just punt on 4th and 1. Tyler, what are you thinking about that? Because that was kind of a weird sequence toward the end there where they look like they're going to line up and go for it on 4th, and they punt. Looks like they're going to concede the game, and then they start calling timeouts again. What was kind of what were you seeing?
They also brought in like the 8th-string quarterback at some point.
I mean, there's no guarantee. You got to always be prepared. You don't want to give them a free first down, So I don't think it really matters calling that timeout, just in the sense of you're helping your team really see, later down in the season what you will do with that type of situation. So even when you're up, you're winning the game, there's always a learning and teaching point where you can actually, use it for your advantage.
2 more things from 0783. 4th, we got lucky they didn't rule. Our guy stepped out of bounds 100%. I thought that was really funny what he said on the post game with Scotty. Scotty said, well, what were you seeing on that touchdown run? What do you think helped you? He said, I think it was the white cleats that helped me. I'll leave it at that.
Oh, man.
That was a great quote.
Twinkle toes
Yeah,
there.
that was they showed the replay in the stadium, and immediately the entire stadium goes, oh, yeah, he's out of bounds. And then 90 seconds later.
Eric said everybody groaned.
Yeah, everyone was like, oh, yeah. It was the classic, he stepped out noise. And then they say, well, the play is upheld. And I think I jumped out of my seat. I was sitting next to my grandpa for a little bit watching the game with him, and we looked at each other. We're like,
we'll take it.
Okay.
We'll take
all
it.
Right.
We're not going to say no to a lottery ticket.
It ended up being the difference between a 1-possession and a 2-possession win, and that kind of made that end comfortable. But the 5th thing from 0783, questioned UTEP punting instead of going for it with 2 minutes left, pretty much surrendering. We're kind of just talking about that. One thing ironic is there was a questionable call to surrender by punting in Bronco's first USU game, just like in his first BYU game, but this time it was Bronco on the other side of the call instead of being the one making it. I'll be honest, I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to Bronco ball in 2005 as a 5-year-old, so I can't really relate to that
All
one.
right,
But
where's that mic button to turn that off right now?
Young pup over there.
Oh, my goodness. The street lights are on, Stockton. We got to get you home here soon.
Yeah, I know. It's past my bedtime.
Top Sheds bringing Aggie Call today, making sheds great again. Sheds of all sizes, custom and built on site. We'll deliver and set up in Utah, Wyoming, Idaho. Visit TopShedUSA.com. And also our friends at Mountain Valley Heating and Air. They want to feel the love. In fact, you've got less than about 12 hours to get into MTNValleyHVAC.com to nominate somebody to get one of those furnaces and AC units hooked up for a family in need. That's MountainValleyHVAC.com. Proud sponsors of Aggie Call. And Stockton, we still got a couple more texts to get through here.
Yeah, 5590, it's kind of a sentiment that I have been agreeing with for months here, but thanks to Diana Sabo for bringing in Mendenhall. The culture needed rebuilding, and without an AD, it still feels like there is a clear direction, and our future feels very bright. You and I spent time talking about that in the pregame, JD, but it just sounds like this program is on a forward and upward trajectory, and they've got people in place, they've got leaders in place, they've got oversight in place that is going to make sure that that trajectory stays intact for the time being.
We also heard from interim AD Sandy Barber in Aggie Game Day, and just the search, and just amazed at how in-depth the search is on the level, and how intense and how fast interim President Alan Smith's moving. So really feel like we are up and away, flying off and taking off in this. And we're still, 10 months away from officially the Pac-12 or whatever that's going to be. But, yeah, I think it's a great start, the way things have gone. And I tell you, after last season being the first year here on Aggie Call and Aggie Game Day and some of the things going through, it's really helped us appreciate some of the little things. Be able to celebrate Caleb Maryland, the 3-star Aggie commit that had almost 500 total yards yesterday in his high school, senior season debut and 5 touchdowns. We're hearing those recruiting numbers and stuff, and we'll talk to Brian Phillips from Big Blue USU Aggie News next week and get some of the updating recruit stuff. But Stockton, the future's bright, man.
Oh, so bright. The last part of this text says, here's to building a true Pac-12 contender year in, year out. Love the Holstein helmets. Yeah, again, I feel a lot more confident and positive and optimistic going into this season, especially after that game, than I did at really any point last season. And it really comes down to the visible changes that Broncos made to this team just in one game. You see them flying around on defense, pursuing the ball, wrapping and tackling, hanging onto the ball carrier, making sure he gets down, not hitting him once, trying to make a flashy, hit stick tackle, and then letting him run for another 15 yards. All these things and all this buy-in that he's getting from a nearly entirely new roster is not only impressive, but it's important for Utah State to have someone like that who's going to build this culture into a sustainable culture in a huge transition year. Because as much as Utah State has been pushing to get more of a national attention and get more prominence on the national stage, this is the time that it's starting to finally happen. They've got to make good on it. They've got to, turn some heads and get some attention in a positive way where they're not, getting nodded as one of the bottom 34 teams in FBS, and that's all the national attention they ever get. It's got to be better than that. It's got to be flashier than that, but it just has to be more disciplined than that. And I think the culture is putting us on that track, and I have faith in this team going forward that they're going to put together a solid year and put themselves on even steeper of a high trajectory on the way into the Pac-12.
Coming in from 4545, I didn't see Ike out there. Where was he? As announced about a week and a half ago, serving a team suspension. So I heard that he has been around the team, but that's all we have. When asked about it, Coach Mendenhall basically has given us the old no comment.
The statement is the statement.
The statement is the statement, yes.
The percentage, the next one up for 9315. What was Bryson's completion percentage? How many times should he be running the ball before it's too much for Barnes? Now, Eric, this is kind of glancing off of a conversation we had, and I phrased the question really oddly to you in the conference room, but 67% was his completion ratio. The odds, do you think it's favorable, true or false, that with Bryson taking, running the ball several times, looks like 15 attempts for 29 yards. That is 1.9. That's a lot of brute. That's a lot of physicality there. Do you think, true or false, Bryson Barnes is going to be healthy under center for every snap for the Aggies this season?
No.
Who comes?
The way that he plays, I love him. I love his grit, and he wants to make a play happen, but he's going to get hurt. And it's not an if, it's a when. When somebody plays like he does, they inevitably always get hurt. And so it's just, when is it going to happen, and who is the backup? Because who I thought was the backup, he was out there catching passes today. Not throwing them, he was catching them. So I don't really know what the situation is for the backup, but that's got to be dialed in. And Bryson, some of those sacks are on him. There were times where he could just throw the ball away. Just throw it away. But he wants to try to make a play and keep extending it, and that's part of what makes him fun and exciting, and he can make yards happen and extend drives for Utah State. But there are times where he cost the Aggies yards because he was just holding on to it a little too long. And I'd hope that he'd get there, but this is pretty common for him. This is what we've observed when he was at Utah, when he was here at Utah State last year. This is who Bryson Barnes is.
So you got a gritty quarterback in your backfield that you're blocking for. How does that impact you as an offensive lineman? I mean, I could, there's mobile quarterbacks, dual threats or something, but Bryson really a guy that it feels like, like he'll kind of give you that grin in the huddle and then go get it. Like, How does that impact you as a teammate and blocking for somebody?
it's fun when you get in the huddle and you see that grin after a good hit. But it does make you a little bit nervous as you go because, like Eric was saying, it takes so many hits, right? But also as just blocking pass protection, it's hard because you don't know where the quarterback is going to end up. And that's what makes it difficult, being able to stay in front of somebody. That puts you at more of a threat to be a holding call, something like that. If you're scrambling, it's just it will get a little bit, a heavier impact on the offensive line if you continue to do that.
So this has been a question that has been with me for almost 44 years of my life, and it just dawned on me. I get to ask an offensive lineman about this. Is there an internal clock in your head for, like, when we hear the call illegal man downfield? Like, one, I don't think that the big guys should ever be called illegally downfield for anything because it takes a lot for us to get down the field. But do you have like an internal clock that goes, or is there a method to that madness?
I shouldn't say yes, but there absolutely is. You think that, it's 3 to 4 seconds, you're blocking the guy, and then in your head there's no way that this quarterback still has the ball. There's no way. And that's when you get into trouble. So the quicker as an offensive lineman I learned was if I can shut that clock off, go to the whistle, or once I feel the defensive line retreating and going to get after the ball, that's when I need to, let go and keep going down the field. But having that clock, it's not a good thing to have.
That actually brings up a question for me about that pocket that Bryson had on the 52-yard strike that he had to Brock. Like 7-8 seconds.
Oh man,
the fact that all 5 of them stay in place and none of them get called downfield. How impressive is that? Just for someone who's been in that position multiple times.
Yeah, no, I was just grinning, seeing, wow, okay, 6, 7, 8 seconds, and then he gets that huge pass downfield, and it's just so rewarding as an offensive lineman to actually get that and just see, hands up, touchdown. But it was really impressive to be able to stay in front of a guy that long.
Aggie Call brought to you by Express Tire. At Express Tire, your safety and comfort is top priority. Visit them on the highway between Hyde Park and North Logan at 3200 North Main. And our friends over at DD Auto and Salvage, proud sponsors of Aggie Call, Cache Valley's #1 place to get the most money for your junk vehicles and scrap metal, here on KVNU 1021 FM, 610 AM, and streaming online at kvnutalk.com. Stockton, how are we doing on the text line? Are we still moving up there just a little bit?
Yeah, we've got a couple coming in here. Just to answer the Bryson completion percentage question, because I don't think we ever got a number on that, 67%.
Okay.
He was at 81%, I think, through that first half, and then obviously things really slowed down in the second half.
Let's while we're mentioning that, I'll get Eric, because the stats are. Is this concerning to you? Breaking it down by quarter, the Aggies pretty good first quarter, second quarter. It didn't seem like slow start, averaging 7.8 yards per play in the first quarter, 8.9, the high of the game in the second. But then we see in the third quarter, 4.8 yards per game. The only getting 53 yards in that third quarter, and then the fourth quarter, running about 16 plays and only getting 30 yards total. Any concerns about that? We're going against the Aggies going against UTEP this week. We got Texas A&M, but conference play starting really early against Air Force coming up in a couple of weeks. Anything on that concern you about the consistency of the offense?
Well, hard to know if how much Kevin McGiven may have kind of called off the dogs a little bit just to try to chew clock and get through things. I think you have to give UTEP some credit too. I think their defense was pretty aggressive. But yeah, they were. Bryson Barnes completed one of his final 6 throws, and overall, how many times he was sacked and how many tackles for loss they gave up. So yeah, the offense stagnated after their final touchdown. They did. The passing game was really struggling. So, yeah, that is a little bit of a concern, but I don't know that I would raise too many big red flags just yet. I think they were trying to chew a lot of clock, but the offense did slow down a little bit. I think you have to give UTEP some credit for some of that. But, yeah, we'll see how they adjust and how well this team improves going forward.
One of the big stories that we heard on the broadcast with Scotty and also on CBS Sportsnet was Chris Joe, the freshman linebacker, the first linebacker to start for the Aggies for the freshman spot since 2005, I believe. Tyler, can you give us a little insight? You kind of talked a little bit about the jump between college to the NFL, but I imagine as a freshman coming in to play D1 football, that's got to be a huge adjustment too.
Yeah, it's comparable going from college to NFL. When I first came, the workouts, everything, and then once we got into camp, it was a whole different world because it is just so fast-paced. And to be able to step up and do that, it is a huge feat to do because of that speed and that change, and you don't really have that much time, especially as a freshman. So all credit to him.
It was amazing to see it set the tone, like right out the gate. The first tackle for loss on defense was Chris Joe doing it out there, the freshman linebacker, but also the linebacking core, of course, the kid from Oregon, John Miller, sticking around for his second season, had a really, really great game. 1 sack, had 10 total tackles, 3 solos there. We have Bronson also that had the big one, the sack there too at the end that kind of locked things down. Eric, when you see on defense, what stood out from you from this Coach Mendenhall team?
Guys flying to the ball, true tackling. I really like the linebackers, just how they moved and how they moved to the ball and kind of to affect the opposing offense. Defensively, the defensive line, there's some guys that, man, those are some big dudes. And Utah State's got some really impressive growth going on there. So I like what was happening up front. I also liked what was happening in the secondary. I know there's some positional changes, moving guys around a little bit. But I think that there's some real positive things there. Noah Avenger, that guy was everywhere. He had a stretch where he was involved in every play. And then he kind of got juked on a play, and then he kind of missed one or two. But overall, you look at his whole body of work today and super impressed with number 1 and how he helped the Aggies on defense tonight.
Tyler, what did you see from the Aggie defense that stood out from you?
Everyone's saying that they were flying around. They really were. And it brought good vibes, like I was saying at the beginning of the show. It just felt like that defense looked like what we had before. And when I was there, everyone was in the film. And with the defensive line, even with their 3-down structure, they were able to give some pressure, and they were able to stop the run pretty decently. Linebacking core, I think that's definitely one of our strengths. And I think that with that and the defensive line that we have, we're going to be a very good defense.
Stockton, you mentioned earlier you saw the clean on defense, the tackling. Anything else that stood out when you look at the Aggies on the defensive side of the ball tonight?
I think what really translates from their style of play tonight on defense and with them flying around all this stuff is that's a level of confidence I hadn't seen in the defense for a long time. You could tell those guys, they were going to get to the football. They were going to put them on the ground. They were going to disrupt plays behind the line of scrimmage, which they did multiple times. They were going to cause chaos in the secondary. We saw a really good pick from Noah Flo colliding with Brevin Hamlin at the same time, both of them trying to make that pick. And then I think Brevin lost his mind watching the replay. He got so excited. There's just excitement and confidence, and it looks like they're having fun for the first time in a couple years. And that makes all the difference out there because, yes, this is a high level of football with a lot of pressure, and it's a completely different game than high school football because it really does take over so much more of your life. I'm sure you can attest to that, Tyler, but they're having fun. They're enjoying themselves out there. They played a great football game. They looked confident. Things slowed down in the second half, but they did enough in the first half where you didn't really have to sweat it out too bad. Obviously, they're going to have to learn some things, make some adjustments. 2 for 12 on third down is not good. But they were moving the ball so well that they didn't really have to worry about third down on their scoring drives. So as long as they can clean that up and just keep the offensive momentum going later into the games, I think that the defense is doing exactly what we expected and hoped they would do, and even exceeding some of those expectations because of how confident they look, how fast they're moving, and how much fun it looks out there.
Aggie Call brought to you by LSS Insurance. Overwhelmed with Medicaid rules and regulations, LSS Insurance can walk you through every option available to you at zero cost. Call 752-9493 for LSS Insurance. And also, Adams Wealth Advisors want you to understand your family, your job, your hobbies, and your goals to earn your long-term financial trust. Visit AdamsWealthAdvisors.com today to schedule a time with an advisor, and proud sponsors of Aggie Call here on KVNU. Going back to the text line real quick, it's available to you at 435-554-1175. That's 435-554-1175. This is more of a negative, nitpicking, and Monday morning quarterbacking. Well, 8144, that's welcomed here. But I'm curious if you feel like UTEP hurt themselves more and if we won on our own merit than this one. Quite a few dropped passes by the Miners, penalties, questionable coaching. We certainly won. It made the most of our opportunities to get in there, but I'm curious against a cleaner opponent. How do we stack up? Tyler, I'll kind of shoot this one to you first. There were some drop passes and, subbing out Malachi Nelson and that stuff. That was questionable, too. But something you said stuck with me, kind of like the first game jitters and stuff. UTEP could be feeling that totally, too, because at the end of the day, as we've been so excited and anticipating this for months and months, these student athletes are also doing it, too.
Yeah, I mean, you're going against your same defense every single day for a month straight. And once you get out there and you think you've prepared, it's a completely different world once you get inside those white lines. And, I mean, you just, I'm putting myself in the coach's shoes. You never know what's going to come out of the players. And, I think the first game is really a vibe check for your team to see how they're going to react to, sudden changes, anything like that. And that's where you're going to learn. So, yeah, you would hope to get the win, but also you can use this as, a huge film session to be able to correct what you're doing coaching, what players are doing. So there's so many moving parts in the first game, and dealing with those jitters and be able to expand and develop to the next week. It's going to, that's the biggest thing that you have to do after a loss like that.
So, Eric, maybe against, a cleaner opponent, I guess it could be the thing, but also everyone's going through those jitters. We were kind of keeping an eye on the Michigan-New Mexico game, just seeing how it was there, and they actually kept it pretty close. Michigan did not cover, and it was, I think, 17-28 late in the third quarter. So the Lobos keeping it close. Any given Saturday, the odds can switch against. So the mistakes that you see from these Aggies tonight, I'm pretty sure I can say with confidence, Coach Mendenhall will, digest the film, and what he doesn't like, I'm pretty sure he's going to let the Aggies know about it, right?
Oh yeah, and he said as much after the game. But look, yes, did UTEP make mistakes? Yes. Did Utah State make mistakes? Yes. So to say how well would they be against a better opponent? Well, we're going to find out next week.
Oh, yeah.
Texas A&M will be a better opponent. Did UTEP, some of their wide receivers drop passes? Yeah, they sure did. Utah State wide receivers dropped a few passes or weren't in the right spot at the right time. Utah State had bad coverages, pass coverages sometimes. Utah State got tackled for loss 12 times. Yeah, so, Utah State wasn't really good either. But both teams made mistakes here, so I understand the question and where it's coming from. But Utah State still would have won on its own merit, because I think that this is a team that showed it's pretty balanced. They've got a streak going. It's one of the longest, if I'm not mistaken, the longest streak in college football right now, where Utah State has scored or played 11 games straight where they have scored a passing and a rushing touchdown. And they're balanced. They're playing complementary football, and they're doing it defensively too. And I think they're showing some really positive signs of growth. So Utah State would have won on its own merits. Now, but every game, that's a nice thing to say, but every game is so different based on the opponent. But yes, UTEP made some mistakes, but so did Utah State. Despite that, the Aggies still won by double-digit points.
So I think maybe the best way, I've been trying to my grade for the night on this Aggie performance. And after being Professor Larson over here and Professor Franson and Professor Jukes, I'm kind of feeling that this is maybe not an ABC kind of grade night. I think this is just a pass or fail for the opening week for the Aggies, and I think Coach Mendenhall's team passed. I mean, that's what you can ask if we look at the, where this team's come from and the build and the turnover that's been, a lot about it. Also, not knowing, I find it real funny that when we talked about our top 25 Aggies, I included Anthony Garcia on that, thinking that the way Bryson plays, that he might get shots looking. Never thought he would be catching passes. And there's one of the starting wide receivers. So that just goes to show you kind of the tricks and the things that Coach Mendenhall sees up his sleeves, that when the guys respond and they show up, he's finding ways to get them in. And so I really think this is a pass for the Aggies tonight. And I don't think that's anything negative. I don't think it's an A-plus performance all the way around, because those tackles for losses, that's a little concerning for me. The penalties, the procedure ones were a little bit also, Tyler saying it's kind of the opening week. Eric, do you kind of feel the same way about that?
Yeah, opening week jitters. And we've talked about this with so many new guys. Both teams had a lot of new guys. But it just takes time. Tyler can speak to this more than I can, but you go through spring ball, you go through fall camp, you're facing each other, but they're familiar faces. You see your coaches on the sidelines, but then all of a sudden one day there's somebody else in a totally different jersey. You don't recognize who they are. There's suddenly thousands of fans in the arena watching your every move. It would seem to me that that's such a different thing that happens from all the practices you do in your own stadium, on your own turf, with your own guys who you're familiar with, you see every day, and then one day it's somebody totally different that you have to square off against, and there's thousands of people watching you. How do you, just the experience of that and learning from that, how to prepare yourself for that, and sometimes it takes a minute to get up to speed with all that's going on now, what's all that's asked of these players all of a sudden, so different from what it's been through these practices.
Yeah, I mean, and if you think about it, they only have really 3 days to prepare for the opponent that they have. So, yeah, you are going against your team through camp. You know exactly what moves the defensive line does. You know how they, cover passes. You know everything like that. You have 3 days to prepare. They also have school going on. They have other things going on outside football. It's hard to be a student athlete and juggle everything. So I think that's going to be a big part of the learning curve once you hit and get into season. And then one thing I forgot to mention too is the speed going into a game. It's a lot different as well. You got a play clock. You can't really take your time, make sure every single formation set perfectly. So there's so many, there really is just so many parts that build up, and then in that first game, that's where you see it come.
If you want to sound off here in the last about 20, 30 minutes here on Aggie Call, 435-554-1175 for the text line. I do have Coach Mendenhall's press conference. Jason Walker getting us the audio from that. We'll roll that out here in a second. I think we've got a couple more texts on the line, Stockton. Can you check that out for me?
Yeah, let's go through a couple here. We'll get to that one in a second. 72-17. Were our receivers exposed tonight? Can't get open or separation. We need to be so much better there, and please get rid of the terrible helmets.
Oh,
what?
Come on.
Boo.
Utah State is 2-0 in these helmets, and they are getting the most national brand recognition that they've gotten in the 5 years that I've been in Cache Valley. That is the last thing this department should do, is get rid of those helmets. They should make them the permanent helmets.
I want to know who's sending that from that area code, because
where's that area code from?
That's a Las Vegas area code.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's coming.
Bryson also completed 18 passes to 6 different receivers for 229 yards. So I don't know if they got exposed. Yeah, there were a couple drop balls and a couple misconnections and some good coverage points from UTEP, but it kind of like this previous text was saying, UTEP dropped a couple passes. It's week 1 football. Yeah. That's what happens. Things are going to be sloppy for a little bit. This is also a team that Bryson's throwing to receivers that were not on this team last year. He's going to be a little out of step with them for a little bit. There's going to be a couple different small nitpick adjustment things that they've got to do for the next couple weeks just to make sure everything's in sync. But to say that our receivers were exposed and we need to get rid of the cow print helmets, I think is two of the opposite takeaways that I have from this game.
I think I found a troll living underneath a bridge. So we'll just go.
It's actually a 213 area code. I don't know where that is.
That is Los Angeles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so somebody messing around.
No, as far as the wide receivers, there were what is it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different guys caught a pass. The running backs are included in that. So take away the running backs, 4 wide receivers, and one of those was a converted quarterback. So a little surprising there. I think there were a few wide receivers that we were expecting to see, but I think some of them have gotten hurt. Demeek Starling was on the sidelines wearing his jersey, but he didn't have pads. I think there's a few others who may be out and may be out for a long period of time. So I think this wide receiver core they're trying to find some things. So I wouldn't say that they got exposed, but there's a variety of guys that caught passes tonight, and they were what they got. I think they were able to do some things. Yeah, I'd like to see a little bit more. I don't know that we saw anybody with take the top off speed. But I think the wide receiver core is a work in progress. And it's one of those so we have I should clarify, we had 2 running backs and a tight end that were in the receiving mix. So, yeah, I'd like to see more wide receivers actually catch the ball. But I think that's a little bit of a work in progress for this team.
And Boyd had several targets from Bryson in the beginning, and so
targeted 8 times, 2 catches.
Yeah, gonna have
Brady
to.
Boyd got interfered with twice that didn't get called. Once on the goal line, and then another time, a couple yards up the field, he had 2 hands on his chest plate going down to the ground, getting tugged down, no flag. So that would I think Brady's gonna come around and be a little bit better. I liked what I was seeing from Pagan in a couple of those spots, and then obviously Brock had that big hit up the seam. That was the once out of 2 times that he was targeted. There are a couple things, like we said, that need to be worked on because this is week 1 football, and your receivers are not going to be in perfect lockstep with your quarterback yet. But our receivers getting exposed is kind of a reach. I don't think they were exposed. I think they might be a little rusty. They might need to work on ways to kind of run their routes away from coverage and separate a little bit more, but exposed, I think, is the wrong word.
And Bryson was a little under duress tonight, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they gave up 6 sacks, and Bryson was on the move quite a bit. So,
all right, guys. Well, we're going to go around the room for some final thoughts here. I'm going to go ahead and roll out Coach Mendenhall's interview here, post-game presser. Thanks to Jason Walker from the Full Court Press and making that happen. All right, it is Saturday, August 30th. We've been waiting for this moment for so many months now.
5 months, 10 days, by the way.
For Eric, your first thoughts of Bronco ball here in Logan, Utah. I know you said it's really weird, but your first thoughts of it and your first experience with it here as the Aggies are now 1-0.
Well, so I went to the game, and I was there for the first half, and a good chunk of that was just watching Bronco Mendenhall on the sidelines. I mean, as I'm watching the game, I'm seeing how the crowd's interacting and reacting to the game, but I was curious to see how Bronco Mendenhall operates during a game. Like we've talked to him, we've heard about how he does things, but it was interesting watching him because he was apart from his coordinators and position coaches a lot. He lets them do their thing. Now, he's still engaged. He's on the headset, and he's still talking to guys up in the booth, and he's got his card with all the plays, and he's looking at that briefly, and he's telling them what to do, and then he puts it back down pretty fast. So he was interacting with his players a little bit, but it was mostly like, I'm going to oversee this game. I'm going to look at this from a 30,000-foot view. I've got my position coaches enabled to do what they need to do. I've got my coordinators enabled to do what they need to do, and I'm going to watch to see how this whole game plays out. So it was really interesting kind of watching that and observing that. And but at the end of the day, he got his team to win, and you can see the players are excited to play for each other and for their coaches. And so he is developing something here at Utah State. It's different than what we're used to seeing, but the phrases about culture and building young men and doing a lot of stuff that isn't really specifically about it's kind of a play design or play call or how this play is executed. We hear a lot more of the former rather than the latter from him. So it's going to be interesting just trying to figure out how his brain works with football and getting to understand how this team works. It's definitely a different approach than we're used to around here. And so far, through one official game in the books, it's a win. And I think there's a lot of upside and excitement about how it's going to look in the future.
Tyler, how do you feel about the first game under Coach Mendenhall for the Utah State Aggies?
Yeah, it was exciting. I also was able to attend the game. And like I was saying, it's just a different feel. And you can tell with the players and how they're playing. To build on your point, saying that he's letting the Broncos letting his offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator do their thing. I got to play for Coach Kevin McGivern, and when he felt the flow of the game, and Matt Wells was also kind of throwing in plays here and there, but when it was just McGivern doing it, he can feel the flow, and he can get so hot so quick. And so that gets me really excited, the point that you were making, saying that, Bronco he trusts his guys. And I think that the players, they'll also see that, knowing that, Bronco picked who he picked to coach these guys. And, he knows that, or they know that he trusts them. So that makes them buy more into what the coaches are telling them. So I think if that's how it goes through the entire season, I think it's going to be a very, very good season for the Aggies.
Getting some final thoughts here on KVNU Aggie Call before we go to Coach Mendenhall's post-game press conference. Aggie Call brought to you by Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, now offering that fall-winter preventative maintenance program. Schedule your service call on their website, advancedheating-ac.com. Or West Valley Motors, helping neighbors and friends in Cache Valley find the right car for 80 years. Driving to fall with a new Ram truck, Jeep, or Chrysler, visit West Motor Company, proud sponsors of KVNU Aggie Calls. Stockton Jukes, 1-0. The A is blue on a Saturday night in Logan, Utah. How you feeling about this one?
Feeling better than Alabama, that's for sure. It's a good night in Logan. And like Tyler was saying, you just can feel that something's different this year. Guys look like they were having fun tonight. They look like they've bought into the program. A year ago, Utah State, they went out there, they played cautiously, I want to say, against Robert Morris. Didn't really dive into the season at that point. You could tell, and they played like there wasn't really a lot of buy-in to the team and what their potential was. Obviously, there was a lot of turmoil right before the season started last year that contributed to a lot of that, and we've kind of grown past that, which is a big part of how the culture is changing. But Utah State went from a team that played like and believed that they were a bottom 34 team in the FBS last year to a team that is playing tonight and played tonight like they believe, and not only believe, but they know they can change the trend in Logan. They can take this team back to some of the highs that we experienced in 2021 and, the Jordan Love era and the stuff that I really started to get into USU football with when I was coming out here. It's gone away for the last couple of years because there just hasn't been buy-in for the team, and they've absorbed that bottom tier football team identity. That's gone away this year. And you could tell, you can see it in the way they play. It's so refreshing. It's so much more fun. There was energy in the stadium. There was great attendance. People showed up. There's belief in this team, and I think a lot of it is the culture that Bronco's bringing in. And despite the fact that, we didn't see any spring ball and had very little to go off of going into the game, and even though it was a pretty sloppy second half, all said and done, it was a good football game. It's a good first step. It looked a lot better than, to me, it looked a lot better than the Robert Morris game to start the season last year, even though the score margin is a little bit smaller. It's a tougher opponent. They played harder football. They look like they believe in themselves and their potential, and I am right there with them. I'm excited to see what's going to happen this year. My last bit is, if you're not down with the Battle Cattle helmets, go watch UNLV barely squeak one past Idaho State.
Okay, well, there's room for everybody, whether you like the Battle Cattle helmet, as a couple people on the text line do not. But you know what? Everybody,
interesting area codes.
Everybody has their own opinion and stuff. But it is a Blue A in Cache Valley tonight as the Aggies take down UTEP, as Coach Mendenhall gets the first win in the start of his Utah State coaching era. We're going to go ahead and take a listen to the postgame press conference from Bronco Mendenhall, provided by Jason Walker from the Full Court Press. And then we'll wrap it up with just some final thoughts as we get on out of here, as this is the postgame press conference with Coach Mendenhall here on Aggie Call.
We'll let Coach go ahead with a few opening comments, and then you guys can ask questions.
Really a gratifying day. Really fortunate to be the coach at Utah State. The stadium was electric, the herd, our alumni, and just the community members. It was definitely a home field advantage. I felt lucky to be the coach tonight. Super proud of the young men that I'm coaching, and just them battling and persevering and showing resiliency from beginning to end. And ultimately, that's what winning college football games takes. First game, new program, new players. There's a lot that goes into that, and I was really excited about the effort. I thought our coverage teams, kickoff and punt, were especially strong today. And normally, special teams-wise, as you begin, sometimes that's a little loose. And man, I thought we did a really nice job there. Our two-point conversion out of our swinging gate, that's also a special teams play. I thought that was a critical play for the margin that helped us kind of manage the game down the end. I thought our defense played really strong, especially through the second half, just to put away the game. And I thought Bryson Barnes competed really well. But Miles Davis, ultimately, in terms of his all-purpose yards, the number of things he did really gave us a great chance offensively. Noah Avenger, coming over from New Mexico, 11 tackles. He was the leading tackler. But the quality of those two kids, man, well, you'll have a chance to visit with them. Noah and Miles, they're the exact type of young people I want at Utah State. They're bright, they're articulate, they're great leaders, they're excellent community members, they're good students, and man, are they grateful to play college football, and they're grateful to play it here. They fit perfectly in the community. They're great examples to those around them, and to have those two play the way they did, it couldn't be more reflective of the direction I want the program to go and with whom. And that matters. It matters to me, especially here, but I think it needs to matter more in college football. And I'm just really thrilled that you get a chance to visit with both Miles and Noah. They're amazing young people, and I'm lucky to work with them. So super proud of my team, and happy for the community. New coach, new players coming in, and I hope there's hope. I hope there's optimism, and the support was just, I'm just grateful. It's beyond what I expected, and just thankful for that. So I'll take questions.
So you kept a lot of things secret, obviously, trying to have them from UTEP for the most part. How much do you feel like that had an impact on this game, and being able to surprise them?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I didn't visit with their coach much about that, but I do know in the season opener with the new program, competitive advantage is critical, and you only get one chance to do that. So yeah, we held spring closed, and there wasn't much access through fall camp, and if that gave our team even a slight advantage of playing better and having a chance to win, that's my job. It's moral, it's ethical, it's within the rules, and it's serving the young people that I care for. So I don't know how much of an impact, but I do think it was the right decision.
Coach Mendenhall, Jason Turner from the Herald-Journal. A little uneven at times offensively tonight.
Yeah.
How much can you build on a game where you commit 0 turnovers?
Well, it's one of the core emphasis points of Coach McGivern, who I just think the world of as a human being, and his experience and a team player and his alignment, and man, he's exceptional. That in and of itself, with our metrics, and I don't share those, but over my entire career, that simple metric has a lot to do with winning. And in the opener, that especially, was gratifying. It has a lot to do with Coach McGiven, but it also has a lot to do with Bryson Barnes and who he is. And so that combination of people gives us a great chance. It wasn't perfect, more penalties than I would have liked. So we kind of saw those throughout, and that was opportunities for us to overcome. And some of those to be expected. I'd rather have penalties of aggression and assertiveness that I can kind of move us back from than the penalties that might be pre-snap or procedural or et cetera, right? Those are completely controllable as I'm building the mindset of the team. That doesn't mean I'm condoning the others, but I'd rather have to pull back on that rather than promote that. So anyway, the penalties I thought also that made it a little more up and down, to your point.
Coach, what was your point of emphasis leading into this game? Week one is usually about building confidence within the coaches, within the game plan, within the players. How well did they execute that point of emphasis this game?
Really the message was, I'm talking to my team like I'm talking to you, and if the team expects the motivational speech and something to go on YouTube and they can make a highlight video, they've got the wrong coach. I love the process, and I love the daily resilience, and I love the daily feedback, and I like the daily grind of becoming. And that's what life is like. And people don't make highlights of us driving to work, any of us, right? And so this will come to an end. The work, the process, the unity, the camaraderie, and then the outcome will be what they earn, which they just had a great time in the locker room. And I promised them that would happen if, right, the process was the focus. It'll happen the same this next week. And so I think many coaches talk about maybe a nameless and faceless opponent coming up. I mean, we're sincere when we talk about that. This entire program will focus only on us. And we'll squeeze every bit of air out of each player as they try to strive. Same with coaches. And hopefully the community will see that, see what we're building, recognize the results that's happened in the past, and it will happen here as well. And that then just kind of formulates, but we don't really celebrate the chance just to practice and all that. We just come to work. And so that was the message. It's just work. And this is 1 week. There's 11 more, and then we play again, and that's how it works. So that was the message. And they were a little astonished, I think, expecting more. Hey, it's the first one. No, this is the beginning of, I think, a beautiful program and hopefully a great era here.
How important is that confidence looking ahead to your next opponent? Obviously, you're going to celebrate this win, but as of right now, how much does this game mean?
So winning college football games is hard, no matter who you play. I mean, the men wearing orange are working really long hours, right? Their players are working really long hours. There's film study, and they got iPads, and they're taking stuff home, and they're studying us and doing everything they can to win the game. And it takes everything to have the outcomes. So, yeah, I'm not ready to talk about the next one yet. Now, tomorrow, my wife might ask me, but tonight, she doesn't. And I don't know, we'll get Taco Bell or something, in the drive-thru. And that's kind of all there's time for. But I'm just happy for the kids, especially.
After UTEP cut the deficit to 12 early in the fourth quarter, defense, I don't have the exact number, but the defense really didn't seem like it budged at all down the stretch. So what do you attribute that success that you had in the fourth quarter?
Preparation. Coach Howell, he just did a really nice job preparing our team. We've been together a long time, 20-something years. And there's no one that works harder. His staff, all of my former players, and they just did a really nice job having that side of the ball ready as our team was ready. But it seemed more critical a little bit, right? Because we weren't moving the ball so much in the fourth quarter, and it seemed like the only chance UTEP had was if they could break a big play or if they could put a couple drives together and if they could get it down to a 2-minute. They had 4 games last year that they finished in 2-minute drives, in addition to the 3 that they won. So I think they sense, man, if we could just get one more score, let our defense to their credit, and how they were prepared, but also how they executed. So the preparation partnership between coach and player, the execution's on the players, and they deserve credit for that.
Coach Mark Green with Utah State, so kind of on that offense struggling to move the ball, especially in the second half, fourth quarter. Just 2 for 12 on third down.
Yeah.
Tonight. What did you see that was kind of just limiting?
Lots to work on there. So combination, there's a few drop passes. We had some protection issues, and then just run game targeting. So really, if you just talk about basic offense, our execution didn't quite hold as long as it needed to be able to kind of put the game away without maybe the tension. At least I felt. I don't know if you felt it, but I felt it at the end. I couldn't quite frankly just breathe. Another touchdown I would have appreciated, right? And we were trying to do that, but our execution, again, through protection, not quite. A couple drop passes, not quite. Some run game targeting, not quite. So we saw it, that we're capable. It needs to last longer, and I think it will.
Just the last couple of years, big struggles stopping the run, and that was something you did well tonight. Didn't give up a lot of, didn't give up any real chunk yardage plays, swarmed to the ball well, tackled pretty well in this space. So how good of a start was that defensively, considering the problems of the past?
We have a physical defense. We have tough football players. We have guys that like contact, to the point where our roster is, man, it's hard for us to practice, and our injury list is growing just as we practice against each other because they like contact. I think that showed throughout. We're fiercely conditioned. We also knew that this was an up-tempo team and that was going to be tested. I thought they handled that really well. 9 different defensive linemen, as you saw them rotating through. I thought we managed that exceptionally well. Coach Wilkins, Coach Howell maximized within the rules what we could do to do that so we could play as fresh and as fast. But they like the chance to make contact, and man, is that fun as a defensive coach. So I have to also say, I thought one of the critical plays in the game, early on, Dylan Tucker goes out, one of our corners. Noah Flores comes in. A lot of times offenses test a new corner right away, and man, he played the ball beautifully, intercepts it, and it didn't surprise anyone on the team because he practices so diligently. I'm not sure anyone was happier. I'm not sure the team was happier for anyone in the game or tonight other than, more so than Noah Flores. He's exemplary, and it was just really fun to see him have a chance.
Coach,
let's go over here.
what did you learn about your team?
Our team is tough. Our team is resilient. Our team is not polished. We're not finished. We're not complete, but we're willing. And that's a great starting point. And so, man, we'll shape and we'll craft. And if it was like the clay pot, you kind of, we have shaping and crafting, but they're going to pump the wheel and they're going to spin it and they're going to work. And they, who's to say how good they can get? I love high expectations, and I'm not going to label them. I think they do anything they want to do.
And you attribute some of the things that you guys needed to work on, like you mentioned those, but you still are very positive. Take me through why that's your mindset in this space, meaning that maybe there wasn't certain performance moments, but we still got that done with you.
Yeah, just because I know who they are and I was watching how they competed. It's different if they aren't trying, or if they weren't united, or if they weren't pulling for each other, or if they're selfish, or if they're belligerent, if they're not coachable. If they're all of those things. And by remaining those things, we have a pretty simple process. It starts with, number one is just grab the good. After every play, there's something they did well. Then it's fix the fixable. Number 2, correct the critical. Number 3, then, never stop believing. And ultimately, at the end, it's love unconditionally. You'd say, man, how do you do that after every play? If you think about the world of psychology and human performance, man, talking to yourself at least in a 3-to-1, preferably 6-to-1 ratio, and you accomplish great things. And so, why would I not promote the things that I see? And we'll target one thing that we'll work on per guy, but I'm going to keep hitting the things they're doing well. And it's way more fun, and it's way more effective.
Last one for you, Coach. What did you like about that Lawrence to Bronco touchdown?
That it was a touchdown. That always helps, but those two guys, Brock Lane stood in front of our team and this past week, and he said Utah State was everything to him. That's a huge statement for someone. The level of tampering that went on with him since I've arrived till now, it's just alarming, disturbing, and it's not right. And he stays at Utah State. I'm not going to tell you how much money, and I'm not going to tell you the things that people tried to lure him away or how they did it. Number 1, it's not right. Number 2, he just said no, and he stayed with the place that he loves. That's cool. And, I hope that story gets told.
Can you tell me a little about the defensive game plan? Because
obviously a lot of short passes for them. It seemed like you guys kind of shied away from throwing numbers in the pass rush to like try and focus on defending those short passes.
Yeah, they're fast. And so early on, a year ago versus Nebraska, Nebraska, I think, scores first. Maybe it was UTEP had the ball first, but eventually the first time Nebraska played man coverage, they threw slot fade for a touchdown. First time we played man coverage tonight, slot fade for a touchdown. The receivers are fast. They're capable. And we would have rather just said our collective body of work through the night will end up winning rather than giving up high-risk plays that we thought would hurt our team. So we didn't like a couple of the matchups. We thought some others are better. Our collective approach we thought would end up controlling the score, which it did. And so, and then you saw more pressures at the end and more affecting the quarterback when it was more clear all they would do is pass because they had to catch up.
Talk about all the big plays you got between the backfield, between Miles and Jaden.
First of all, the type of people, again, I've already talked about Miles, and you won't meet Javen tonight, but oh, man, what an amazing young person. Same thing, the quality of human being, the way he works. He showed up in black, which is our highest level, and he pushed that culture, and then he's just looking for ways to serve his teammates. He's the first to put his arm around a younger player, trying to counsel how they should do it, what it's like to be in our program. Just his actions are exemplary. So it's just fun when great young people play really well, and they're grateful, which is an amazing trait to have in college football. And they're looking to deflect rather than bring the attention to themselves. And so, yeah, Javen and Miles, that combination, exceptional, with Barnes kind of complementing them, and we've already talked about Brock. Our receivers will actually emerge more. They've been one of the strengths of our team. So UTEP did a nice job against them tonight. That was one of my surprises. I thought, man, they'd have a hard time covering our guys. But UTEP did a really good job tonight, so we'll kind of address that a little bit. But, yeah, Javen and Miles, kick it to them, they'll catch it. Throw it to them, they'll catch it. Hand it to them, they'll run it. Fly sweep it to them, pitch it to them. They can throw. I mean, anything that you can do with the ball, we're going to have them do.
Joe, I think, was the first freshman to start for Utah State defense in the opener since 2014. Is that right? What does that say about him and what he's already kind of accomplished?
It's really cool. Chris Joe, again, an amazing young person. Wow, is his family awesome. He commits to us at New Mexico, and kind of nobody found him other than us, and we were just thrilled, and then we chose to come, and he came with us. And it wasn't until some of the first scrimmages that it was like, hey, and he'd make plays and make plays and make plays. So Coach Jorgensen has been working overtime all week, almost tutoring one-on-one to get him ready for his first start as a true freshman in college football, which there's a lot that goes into that, and I thought he handled it really well. So he's big, he's fast, but again, the type of person allows him to be prepared for. The stage wasn't too big for him. He did a nice job.
Coach Bronco Mendenhall's post-game presser. Thank you to Jason Walker, the Full Court Press, for getting that audio for us, and we'll have that throughout the season here on Aggie Call. Stockton Jukes, Tyler Larson, Eric Franson hanging out with you here on Aggie Call, getting some final texts in. The text line's still open, 435-554-1175. Or if you want to move to the front of the line, 435-753-5868. That's 753-5868, 753 KVNU. I'm sorry. It's 11:10. I'm a little excited from the Aggie. It's been it's been 5 months, 10 days, 2 hours, and 37 seconds. And now we have a Blue A here in Cache Valley on this Saturday night. Stockton, let's wrap up a few of the text here.
Yeah, a couple more to get to. 88-24 really felt like our play calling on second and short ended up being drive killers all night, led to many of the failed third down conversions. I understand wanting to take some chances in those situations, but sometimes we need to just continue to take what the defense has been giving. I agree. I really didn't like that 2 for 12 third down mark. I think that's a kind of a really dark spot on an otherwise pretty good night for Utah State, and I'm sure that's going to be something that is honed in on over the next week, and when they go through film study and stuff like that. Third down conversions are a huge stat in the game of football, and that's something that you really got to improve on going into next week if you want any sort of a flying bats chance in HE double hockey sticks at winning that game. You've got to convert those third downs. Biggest surprise of the night for us, 8824 asking. For me, it was Anthony Garcia playing at wide receiver in place of Demick Starling. The kicking game and special teams was also a wonderful surprise. I think for me, the biggest surprise was how little Javen Jacobs touched the ball. I expected a little bit more from him on offense. That being said, Miles Davis got the job done. I don't think there's any issues with the fact that Javen Jacobs didn't touch the ball a lot. I just expected to see him a little bit more.
Yeah, I think I was kind of expecting that too,
Yeah,
Eric.
good point. I think that's what we had all been led to believe, that Javen Jacobs was RB1.
We got hoodwinked.
But I think that's I don't necessarily think that's anything against Jacobs. I just think Davis just had a heck of a game.
It's what worked.
And they were rolling with a hot hand. It's what you do. And how he caught the ball out of the backfield, he was really dynamic that way. He provided a safety valve for Bryson. I think some of those were designed. Others, it was in check down. But, Miles Davis had a heck of a game. I think he's got to be one of the big surprises. I'm glad the texter brings up the kicking game, the special teams. My gosh, some of those punts were just like boomers.
Yeah, he got them.
I was really impressed by that.
Have you ever been with a coach that says, "Hey, Tyler, you're on a hot roll right now. You're on a hot hand. We're just going to keep going there with your blocking," or is that just that we see on the wide receivers, tight ends, and stuff? Or do the coaches come and hype you up when you guys, or maybe you have a great set, or maybe they're moving the ball, or some of the benchmarks? They ever come to you guys like that in your offensive line, your position coach fire you guys up on that? We see it with some of the other positions, but I wonder about the offensive line.
Oh, yeah. If you get a good run game going, there's been times where we've ran the same play 4 or 5 times in the run game. And so it's just, why not keep running it until they stop you? And I think using Davis like that and how well he was doing in that game, that's what they were doing.
Now, do you take, as an offensive lineman, do you take a sense of pride when the other positions have a big game, break out, do things? Miles Davis doing it both through the air, on the ground. You're an integral part of that. How does that make you feel as maybe, the offensive line? I will always, I call them the big uglies. Please don't knock me through the wall.
Right. We are.
But those are my favorite guys. Those are my favorite guys. One of my favorite Seahawks, Big Walter Jones. I love the Cortez Kennedy, those guys. I love it when, you see a lot of times when the flag comes out, they get that.
Yeah.
But it's got to feel good when that kind of achievement for Miles tonight. You also have Bryson doing a pretty good job through the air and on the ground. That's got to be an accomplishment. Yeah, there are some things to work on the offensive line that they'll sort out and stuff. But how does it feel as a position group when you see the other impact players, I guess, from those positions, when they get theirs and they get their accolades? How does that make you feel as an individual on the offensive line and also as a unit?
Individual and as a unit, it really is the same feeling. It is just so rewarding. People ask me all the time, what were my highlights of my career? Utah State, we had 3 consecutive years with 1,000-plus rusher. Carolina against Cincinnati, Christian McCaffrey was able to break the single rushing record. It's just those things. We know deep down that without us, that wouldn't have happened. And so seeing those accolades for all the skill positions, it really is a reflection on us. We don't say it, but we feel it.
Awesome. I love that insight that, Tyler, you're bringing to it to understand, because big fan of the offensive defensive line in the trenches, of course, being a big guy my whole life. That's where the coach put me. But I was all-state water boy, so not exactly tearing up the talents. But if you need high-quality H2O, I definitely got you.
I'll take it.
We got another text coming up there.
Yeah, one more from 8824. If you would have told me beforehand that we would go 2-12 on third down and gain 85 total yards in one half, I would say we had no chance of winning. UTEP was really that awful. I don't know if UTEP is awful, but Utah State played a better sloppy second half than UTEP. Obviously, the penalties were kind of an issue, and the lack of third down conversions in the second half was an issue. Aggies still outscored UTEP 8-6 in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, it's still a win is a win is a win.
They don't have to be pretty.
Like if Eric, if this was, now this is week 1. Now if this was week 8 and we're in the middle of conference play, maybe a little bit more alarming. Maybe we would have a little bit more concern, but since just out the gate, kind of just see how this goes as we progress. Now, if there's things that don't get cleaned up next week, maybe not. That's not the week to kind of take the litmus test, but it's kind of something we can see in the trends, right? Nothing to be too concerned to jump off the boat yet.
Yeah, I mean, 8 penalties for 45 yards on offense, 3 penalties for 28 yards on defense for Utah State, and a good chunk of those all coming in the second half. So, yeah, the texture is absolutely right. Like, you look at a few key stats. If you were to take that alone and just look at that, especially in the second half, you think, my gosh, this is going to be anybody's game. I'll just be surprised if Utah State wins this one. But for the things that the offense seemed to struggle with, the defense seemed to step up and fill that gap and take over and fill in where maybe the offense was lacking a little bit. So I liked the adjustments that the defense made in the second half, getting more pressure on the UTEP offense and making it more difficult for them to move the ball too.
Coming in 0221, love the toughness and flying around on D. A good start to the new era. Good job to all you fine young men. I agree, 0221. I feel like there was a confidence out there in the step and the play, and dare I say, Aggie swagger a little bit out there.
They were having fun for the first time in a while.
But it wasn't over the top like theatrical. They weren't pimping home runs and stuff like we kind of saw last year that some of the guys, you get some of those undisciplined, Well,
and that wasn't them having fun. That was them compensating for feeling terrible about the football they were playing all year. This was, they played great football. They were confident in it. And they had fun because they won the game and they played good football.
Man, we're gonna have to work on some therapy from last season to get things
still
done.
washing away the trauma.
Yeah, I know it is, but hey, it's a good day.
It's a great day.
We're undefeated. It's been a day that I think we've all been waiting for since the end of last November, and now it's here. And so as we're wrapping up Aggie Call here on KVNU 1326, I think we've got one last one there. Also important to remember, or up to the top, Tyler, I'm sorry, this is you again.
There we go.
Has the team asked Tyler to come in and work with the line or centers at all?
No. I have attended practices, and, I have an open door policy. They all came to ask questions. So, whenever I have a chance to help someone trying to, make it, I'm more than happy to help.
And we've got some Green Canyon maulers that Tyler is molding up there in the north. I'm telling you, seeing that. And actually going to be pinch hitting for Jacob this Friday. So I'll be up at the Green Canyon game. I'm going to run some color for Stockton, and he's going to be the boss man in control. So I'm waiting for that. This coming up Friday. It'll be a great night there at Green Canyon. But final thoughts here as the Aggies go 1-0. Eric, I'll give you the microphone right here. We're looking forward to Texas A&M coming up in a week, of course, preparing for that. But final thoughts of the Aggies pulling off this win over UTEP.
Well, I'm excited for 2025 for a variety of reasons. New coach, new coaching staff, so many new players, so much uncertainty. We've made this joke on the Full Court Press for so much over the summer. It's Bronco and the Mystery Men. It sounds like a band. But that's what this football team was like for so much in the spring and in the fall. Finally, we got to see what it all looks like on the field today. And yes, there are some things that are concerning that need to be addressed, but there are things to be hopeful about and excited about too. How many teams this game is, or how many games this team is going to win, I'm still not sure. But I feel more confident now that this team has a path to bowl eligibility than how I felt 2 weeks ago. The other thing that I'm really excited about is we have a future Aggie Hall of Famer on our show. And Tyler Larson's going to be inducted to the Utah State Athletics Hall of Fame this season. And I'm super excited to have him in the group, part of this show, somebody who was an Aggie legend, part of that, the really special years at Utah State, 10 years in the NFL, great perspective, and to have him part of this group and to share his insight and his experiences. I hope people appreciate that because it's so fun when these former Aggies come back and can give back to the community. And I'm really glad that he was willing to let me twist his arm to come in and do this. And be on the radio with us.
I'm totally
these
nerding
late
out.
nights.
Yeah, the questions are going to be coming fast and furious. And I heard that you the one show that he might not be able to make, the one game. Actually, he's busy being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
He's got commitments.
I'm like, come on, man, just cell phone us in on the speakerphone. We'll just put it right there.
I'll hop on. I for sure will. I love talking football. Any chance I get, I'm going to do it.
It's going to be great, and we're going to take full advantage of asking you all the questions in the trenches and the things. And Tyler, just really appreciate you taking the time, hanging out. I have, over the past year, learned how passionate this Utah State team is. I told you that Bobby Wagner is the reason I'm here, being a Seahawks fan, and found out about Cache Valley, and I have absolutely fell in love with not only Cache Valley, the people here, but the Utah State Aggies in this program. The only thing I really know, I know the Ducks won today. I moved to Oregon a long time ago. The only really other highlight I know is that the Duck lost his head.
I saw that.
Puddles lost his head, and that's the only Oregon thing. But thank you for being here on KVNU Aggie Call. We appreciate you taking some time today. Any final thoughts from what you saw tonight and what you think the coming week's going to have for our Aggies?
I just love the way we're trending, and I think next week is going to be a very eye-opening look on how we adjust to adversity, and I think that's going to be a big stepping stone for us to see really where we're at and how we can gauge once we're into conference play, because adversity is going to strike, and I think this is the best game that we're going to be able to see how we react.
Stockton?
Yeah, first and foremost, got to echo what Eric said. Tyler, super stoked to have you here. I'm not going to hold the fact that you were a Carolina Panther against you. We're okay. But having that experience, and you made a tongue-in-cheek comment earlier about offensive linemen being the smartest guys on the field. That's true. It's 100% true, and taking advantage of that insight, that expertise that you have is going to be super exciting this year. So thank you for coming by. But I think that we have a lot of promising points to go off of tonight for Utah State. Like I said, I feel a little bit more confident in this one than I did about the Robert Morris game last season, despite the score margin being a little tighter, despite that second half. That being said, I still don't think that we know even half of what we are going to learn about this football team yet this year. I think we're going to learn a lot about them next weekend, like Tyler was saying, how they respond to adversity, how they stick in there in games that they are 28-point dogs in. It's going to be a tough one at Kyle Field, one of the hardest places to play on the road in college football. They're going to have to really mentally lock into that game and understand that it's going to take a miracle to make that game even kind of close. That doesn't mean that they can't do it, but I think we're going to know a lot about the team based on whether or not they go in and lay a goose egg in College Station next week, because we had a good game against Robert Morris last year, 48-0 at USC the next week. So I think how they match up with one of the top teams in the country next week is going to tell us a lot about what the potential for this team is in the conference, in the postseason, bowl-wise. So I'm excited. I think it's going to be fun to have a morning edition of Game Day, have a day game, 10:45 kickoff for that one. And I think Utah State's got a chance to turn some heads, even if they don't win that game, even if they don't get close. If they show up and they play, a physical brand of football and at least give Texas A&M something to have to work through, then we're on a good path. I would like to see them score on more than one drive next week, and I think that would be a win in and of itself.
I think the difference for me going into Texas A&M from USC last year, and I still twitch a little bit thinking about that, confidence. I feel like, and I've mentioned it several times, I feel like the world could be burning down, and Coach Mendenhall could look at me and say, you know what, JD, it's going to be all right. We have a game plan. We're going to execute. We're going to go into a very hostile situation in College Station. But it's going to be all right. We know our game plan. We know who we are, and we're going to execute. And just maybe Bronco and company and the mystery men could do something pretty amazing down there at Texas A&M, because it always happens. You don't know until you kick off the ball for that game. And that'll be an 8:45 start. Breakfast burritos from Cafe Sabor. I'll have to see if I can't make that happen coming up next Saturday on the 6th here for KVNU Aggie Game Day kicking off. So with that, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up for tonight. Thank you for joining us for Aggie Call here on KVNU. You can listen to this as the podcast will be uploaded to kvnutalk.com and the podcast feed coming up probably, if I know Will, he'll be on it in the next hour and a half or so. It'll be up there before the morning. So for Eric Franson, for Tyler Larson, Stockton Jukes, I'm J.D. Walker. Thanks for allowing us to do Aggie Call and Aggie Game Day for the greatest fans of Utah State on the planet here at KVNU 102.1 FM and 610 AM. Until next time, guys, we'll see you then.
This Utah State broadcast has been a presentation of News Talk KVNU and the Cache Valley Media Group, the heritage home for the Aggies.